Hey everybody, my name is Marcell, and this is the Rant-A-Way podcast where we don't talk about our favorite things, we rant away about them. We have now hit, technically, episode 3, but because we started at 0, we're technically now at episode 2, so happy episode 2. I've got my friend with me today, Money Green. Money, what's up?
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Happy Sunday. It's gonna be Sunday when they listen too, so yeah, happy Sunday. Hope everybody's weekend is going fantastic. Hope everybody's doing good.
Hope you guys had a good April Fool's if you celebrate.
Did you get anybody for April Fools?
No, I do it for the whole month, so no one is safe.
So you do April April Fools the whole month?
Yep.
Don't tell me you're one of those guys who has like a birthday weekend and a birthday month and everything like that too. April Fool's month is crazy.
It is. It's a very old tradition that needs to stop, but as long as the pranks are wholesome, who am I to complain? But we're not here to talk about April Fools. We're here to talk about what money.
So first of all, shout out to Marcell on a Tuesday, because we're gonna give you a peek behind the curtain. He's gonna get mad real quick, but Marcell on a Tuesday is the editor, which is just Marcell on Tuesday, and he edits this up and he cuts out all of the off-topic nonsense that I like to do.
So what if I hypothetically cut this part out too?
I'm gonna do a lot of.
April Fools.
That's more work. That's more work for Marcell on a Tuesday. So that's what I'm saying. Shout out to Marcell on a Tuesday, whether this makes the final cut or it doesn't make the final cut. You on Tuesday, I'm talking to you in the future right now. So shout out to you on Tuesday. But yeah, just a peek behind the curtain. We're gonna keep it light today. I think last month we was talking about video gaming stuff and what was going on in the industry, reporting on news and stuff like that. But it's gonna be more of like, loose topics. And I'm gonna make it my mission to get Marcell triggered today, because he be triggering me all the time with the Joker stuff. So
Good luck.
we gotta set you off one of these days. Get you ranting on stuff. But now we're gonna keep it light today. Anime focus, anime and animation focused. You good with that?
I'm here.
All right. So why don't you tell us about what your favorite anime is of all times?
My favorite mainstream would probably
be mainstream. Are you breaking it up into subtopics?
Well, yeah, because like everyone's got, like, think of favorites like a top 10. Like, it's always changing with the seasons. Like, I look at it like moods. So it's kind of like whatever you're feeling for. Now, obviously, engaging with media is a little bit different than like engaging with music, just because music is like 3 to 5 minutes at best per song. And anime is something more long and planned out. So like my favorite mainstream show would definitely be Naruto. My next show after that would definitely be Hikaru no Go.
Hold on, let's get into that for a second. So do you have a list? Do you want to do like a top 5, top 10 for you? Because I thought your favorite was just gonna straight up be Naruto.
No. I got other favorites. I've got other favorites. Kill la Kill's if I'm doing just 5, Kill la Kill would probably be like number 5.
As many as you want to play. It's your show.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna list off my entire like repertoire.
If you wanna drop your whole catalog.
No. What's that thing they do? My anime list? I don't have that.
Drop the sauce for the listeners, man. Put somebody on.
All right, guys, watch Death Note. It's a shonen, big air quotes, but it's a lot of talking. But action is dialogue, and dialogue is action. So if you haven't seen it yet, give it a whirl. It's pretty fun. But yeah, no, Naruto, Hikaru no Go, obviously Avatar. I like The Legend of Korra as well, even though those are more Western animes. But a lot of those shows that we watched growing up, Yu Yu Hakusho and Hellsing. And I never watched The Prince of Tennis, but I remember it being on TV and just kind of glazing over it. There were some ones in between that I watched, like Monsuno.
This is crazy.
Listen, when they hit that ball, it goes crazy.
That's a sports anime. I'm surprised.
Well, I mean, that's why I said I never really watched it. Like, it'd be on TV at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Either it was before Zatch Bell or before Rave Master. So it was just kind of like, I want to see either one of those two shows. And like Prince of Tennis just was on that block. And I was like, all right, I just gotta wait. And there was nothing on Nickelodeon because it was like, late at night. So Nickelodeon was probably doing reruns of whatever was on their Friday release. That was just like okay, not watching TV for 30 minutes. So yeah, no, I never really got into the Prince of Tennis. If anything, I saw more advertisement spots for it on the DVDs that I had, because I think Viz Media did a lot of the distribution rights for like a lot of those early animes back in the day. So they just kind of clumped together like some other shows and then just put them in the previews. There was this one show called, I think it was called Buso Renkin. So it's Bussorenkin, and it is just like, you can tell it's just very generic, but anime characters with spiky hair and big swords were just kind of like the thing. But yeah, there was no enthusiasm behind this random show called Buso Renkin on Viz Media's playlist for previews before you went to see the anime that you wanted to watch. I think it was on the Hikaru no Go DVDs that I bought. So
Oh, is Hikaru no Go that anime about shogi?
No, it's an anime about Go, which is different from shogi. If I remember correctly off the top of my head right now, since I just woke up, shogi is Japanese chess and Go would be Japanese checkers. Or I got that flipped, but yes. Go is a variant of that.
Yeah, because I didn't read. I think maybe I read. You know how Shonen Jump used to give you like previews of what was getting ready to come out
Mm-hmm.
back in the day when you bought the big book. So
Yeah.
when I used to get those, I think I got a preview for Prince of Tennis, because I even thought it was crazy back then. I was like, wow, a manga or anime about tennis. Like, I don't really know how that's gonna go. But I read the preview, and then I remember Karu no Go, and I read that too. But I mean, I was there for the main stuff, Dragon Ball Z and whatever. But they would put the little preview, I think, either in the middle or in the back.
Do you remember that
And I
one
read.
with Stan Lee?
They had a manga with Stan Lee.
Yeah, I think it was called like Ultima or Ultimo or something like that. Like the characters had like really big legs and big arms. And I think Stan Lee, like, he wrote himself into the story. I think he was like the evil creator or something like that. I just remember it because he has like those iconic aviators and just his shape of a face.
Yeah, it's called Ultimo.
Ultimo, yeah, man. I remember seeing that in
From
like certain stores.
2009 to 2015. Yeah,
Wow, that's a pretty long run.
that's a long run. 11 volumes
Good
or
for
12
him.
volumes, excuse me. Yeah.
Oh, 2009. Okay.
Yeah, no, until you brought it up, no, I never seen it before. Back in the day, though, I was very, very, very mainstream. That's why I was gonna say, like, you could probably speak to a lot more of it than I could about, um, certain mangas and animes. Like, I remember some of the ones you was naming off, some of the ones you was naming off I never heard of.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, back in the day, it was very mainstream. Yu Yu Hakusho, Rurouni Kenshin. Would you consider Samurai Jack an anime?
Yeah, I'd say it's like Western anime. It's very inspired by Eastern aesthetics and culture. So, yeah, that'd be in the boat too. It wasn't as common, but looking at it today now with what we know, yeah, that would be most likely considered an anime too.
Yeah, Samurai Jack. Obviously, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. I know you said Yu Yu Hakusho. Yo, what I gotta say about Yu Yu Hakusho, I
Hmm.
feel like Yu Yu Hakusho for like music, like Yu Yu Hakusho's music is crazy.
Yeah.
Like the opening and the ending. And then I know I showed you the video the other day about and sent you back down memory lane about um old school anime openings and new school anime openings.
Hmm.
I was listening to some of the new school ones, and I mean, like, sometimes they get you going, but I remember, man, back in the day, like Yu Yu Hakusho, Kenshin, the only Gundam I ever watched was Gundam Seed.
Okay.
But their openings and closings, Evangelion had the Fly Me to the Moon, which is absolutely bananas. I don't know, man. Anime back in the day's music is crazy to me.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't know
that.
that it just felt like you had like a lot more bang for your buck, like a more meatier sandwich, and nothing disrespectful to the new age of anime. I think that with the new industry's standard, they just found a way to condense all of like the good parts of the anime of old and manufacture it in a way where it's like, okay, I know that this character is going to do this thing, or I know that this part in the anime is going to do this particular thing. And I don't think that's bad, but like when you remove certain aspects of things from old to put into the new and like streamline it, I think I think something gets lost along the way translation wise. Wow, big no pun intended. But yeah, like the anime that I see like my little brother watch or like what I tried to get into, like Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, like I didn't really care for them just because you kind of already know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
And that doesn't make it bad. It's just that like when you're watching something for the first time, you're not going to experience that emotional high again. No matter how many times you watch it forward on, okay? And when I see the new anime today, it's just kind of like, yeah, I've seen this before, right? Whether it was done better or not, I've seen this type of thing before. Good anime character loses their mind because friend was insulted. Now they go berserk because they have a demon living inside them. Something to that effect, right? I
Yeah.
was shocked the first time when it happened in Naruto because it was the first time I ever seen something like that. I was shocked about it when Aaron, well, Attack on Titan is just a completely different world and a completely new industry, but the death to alive ratio in that show was just insane compared to like
Yeah.
the anime that we watched, because like even though people died, you kind of knew that they were still safe and protected by, the plot or whatever we want to call it. Whereas like a lot of shows today now are trying to deconstruct that idea of like, oh well, you're the good guy, that means you're going to be safe or you're always going to be right. um Shows like Invincible, The Boys, even
Hmm.
Watchmen for the very longest time. Like nothing for Zack Snyder, but it was just kind of like he definitely wanted to have some realism to his world. And now that I say it like that, remember when we was watching Godzilla the other day,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
people were just dying left and right in the buildings, but we're all cheering for the monsters.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like anime now is just starting to question the validity and how legit something is. Like I saw something in Jujutsu Kaisen the other day. Something, it was like some edit, where actions happening and like spirits are bursting out of skyscrapers and they're skating across the building tops, and I'm like, those people are dead, right? Like why is everyone smiling? Like your whole point of the society is to make sure that cursed spirits don't kill humanity. Um,
Hmm.
I'm probably gonna have someone like whole paragraph in the comments for me for saying that the wrong way, but like, I don't know. There's just something about these anime shows today where it's just about it's just about like all the highlights to anime. Like character powers up, character has transformation, character fights for his friends, character has a nosebleed every now and then, character can't admit to his love interest or vice versa. Like the entire world revolves around them. It's just like not bad, but I've seen it so many times that like I've just like chilled out from anime for a bit, and I'll just watch shows like as I come across them. But like even for Naruto, like he quote unquote saved the world, but like he's still raising children soldiers in Boruto. Like I think he fought the symptoms and not the disease, but like the world is still active even without his involvement.
We gonna get into that definitely. But going off of what you were saying, I agree. But in defense of, I mean, I'm not gonna defend any. I mean, I don't even watch current. But what you were saying about Attack on Titan, kind of just because I only watched the first season. But when I was watching the first season, it gripped me because it's just like, so it's kind of like Game. I feel like Attack on Titan is kind of like the Game of Thrones of anime, in my opinion. Now
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. Somebody more well versed in the world of anime might be able to disprove that and point out something else mainstream or not mainstream and debunk that. But I agree with you. Was like, yeah, it kind of came where it's like, oh, you think that all of these people in the main character's crew is safe, and then you come to find out like, nah, they go through a lot of trauma and turmoil. Like the good guys, the quote unquote good guys, go through a lot of like trauma and turmoil before they finally start to get their wins, and they edge out small victories, but at great costs and stuff like that. It's definitely not a happy-go-lucky type situation for the people that you would think would be safe, that they couldn't be touched, that oh, this person is a name and they're getting a backstory and this and that and whatever. So yeah, they're probably not gonna die. At worst, they might take a big injury or something, and then the next minute you're like, oh shoot, they're dead. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting that. I feel like they was kind of first, but in defense of like newer anime, kind of just doing things for that shock value and stuff like that. Or, like you said, when we was watching Godzilla, like people just getting slaughtered. I feel like they did that a lot back in the day too, because I mean, I told you I used the example before about why I kind of fell out with Dragon Ball Z, even though it's like, even though that it happened in like my favorite saga, they just started letting people die and be like, yo, it's okay. We can bring them back with the Dragon Balls. And then every single time they say that, it's like, yo, I get it. Like, it's in the title, but you're kind of taking away the stakes from the show. If, Cell just killed somebody or the androids just wiped out a whole town and you're just like, it's all good. We'll just bring them back with the Dragon Balls. And I mean, for that, and that kind of correlates into something else later, but for that, it's just kind of like, yeah, the stakes kind of got removed once that started happening. Because I think even during the Boo saga, like I think didn't Kid Buu start blowing up like planets, and I think he destroyed Earth or something
Yeah,
like that. And it was
he
just
hopped
like,
like 5 galaxies and like popped all of them before he settled on like the Supreme Kai's place. And Super Boo on top of the lookout tower nuked everyone. Per Piccolo's request, Piccolo told him to go kill people until him and Trunks and Goten were ready for their fusion dance thingy in the hyperbolic time chamber. So Boo was like, "Okay, I killed them all. I'm done. Like, what's next?" So like the people of Dragon Ball Z were like never the focal point of the story, and I think in some elements it does hurt its storytelling because like we should want to care about the civilians outside of them just being essentially NPCs, but like I don't know, like the world of Dragon Ball Z could always been stronger, and because it wasn't, I checked out that aspect of it a long time ago. Like if they bring the humans back, great. If they don't, oh well. Like they'll figure something out. I mean,
right,
Bulma's
yeah.
technically like a billionaire, so like, what does she care? And their president's a talking dog, so like,
And it's like that's kind of like the So I guess it really just depends on, because I mean, shows like Attack on Titan, which I mean, I guess, wouldn't really surprise somebody who came from, being huge on like Evangelion or whatever. Because I mean, Japan is just getting wrecked by angels and, they're barely hanging on and whatever the case may be. And, Shinji's got major wreck with his dad, and that's a big thing. Asuka's got her problems and whatever, and Ray's a clone. Um, so yeah, people coming from watching that, to watching Attack on Titan, you kind of get like, yeah, stakes are high, things are important, the people mean something. And if you're just watching Dragon Ball Z, like at that point in the story, it's kind of like, yeah, what we're here. We're here for the fights. We're here for the major power moves, and
yeah, but even
you
but
know,
even the fights can be like very clutch and high stakes. Like if you can depict and present actual stakes, then people are always going to be invested, and that is attributed to good writing. Like when I watched Dragon Ball Z Kai, just because I was kind of young to just watch Dragon Ball Z from front to back at the time that it was on TV, but when they got around to doing Kai, I was like, man, like so it's the Android saga, but it's like the little build up to it before like 17 and 18 show up. I was watching
mhm.
that segment of Kai and I was like, man, this is really like back and forth. Like this is really cool writing right now. Like I'm genuinely invested in it. I still think the show should have stopped after he beat Frieza, just because he Goku technically indirectly avenged his people, kind of making Bardock's wish of getting back at Frieza come full circle, I guess. But like that Android saga, like just at the start, was really really good. And then once Cell shows up, I'm just kind of like, okay, I remember these parts, and I watched them as they came. But I was very surprised by the Android saga. Like that was one that was kind of like foggy for me growing up. But
Mhm.
I that one was a really like good tightly writ mini spot before like 17 and 18 show up. So yeah, like again, it can work for shows like that. Like again, Dragon Ball Z comes from like the inspirations of Fist of the North Star. And like
Mhm.
while that show was all about fighting, it was why they were fighting is what was really important to people. Um I know Berserk is another anime that's been around in those older times that's getting its reworks and its reanimations and its redone styles in modern times now, but it's like if you've seen shows like that, Ninja Scroll and just all of them other like higher rated animes in terms of like gore factor and survivability and main character doesn't mean anything in these parts. It's like shows like Attack on Titan are going to be interesting because of how they depict and how they present these stakes. Like again, I've seen stuff like this before Attack on Titan showed up, but when I watched Attack on Titan and Aaron gets his arm chopped off and eaten in the same episode and the show just moves along like nothing happened, I'm like, oh snap, was Armin the main character? Was Mikasa the main character? Like the show's really doing that because like you've seen so much of it. I'm sorry, you haven't seen so much of that in other shows that like when a show comes around and doesn't draw attention to it because they're playing their hand very close to their chest and this is just a part of the greater story. I think that's really cool. It's like Persona 5 with and I'm gonna trigger all the girls out here, but I don't care. Fight me. Akechi's pancakes. Like
Yo, that was dope.
when
The way you connected that for me, and you told me like,
yo,
because I mean I played that broken up, but when you explained it like, man, this little like what you would think was like a throwaway line, but actually it meant something all the way down.
I
Morgana knew what was up.
really thought it was a throwaway line the first day that I heard it. But at first I was like, wait a minute. I thought you could only understand the metaverse if like I'm sorry, I thought you could only understand Morgana if you've been in that space. And they established that
Yeah.
and they honed it in very hard. So I was like, okay, I got it. Like we understand he's a talking cat because we went into the metaverse. And then when Akechi said what he said, and I'm like, was he responding to Morgana? And you know, you can look back at the logs and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh snap. But then I'm like, wait, I think we're only like maybe like a few hours into the game. Like we had just beaten Kamoshida, so we're like in the tutorial stage essentially. And the game just keeps moving on and it keeps moving on. And I get back to the game at like the end of the week and I'm like, I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind, but like maybe it's not a big deal. And then like 70 hours later, yeah, he knew the whole time. I'm like, that's crazy. That was superb writing, like sublime.
Yeah. Because it shows you know that like it shows you went in with an idea. Like when you put that in there in the beginning, like we're gonna come back to this. This means something. Like I know you guys don't think it means anything right now. Right now it doesn't mean anything because when you're right there in the moment, like you said, you know, you just beat, you know, maybe the first palace or so, and you kind of going along, you're establishing yourself, and then you know you hear he hears Morgana because Morgana's the only one who says anything about pancakes.
Right.
But still, you're not really thinking anything of it. Like you didn't think of it, I didn't think of it. You know, I'm sure if you ask 100 people out there, somebody will be like, "Yeah, I knew all along because I paid attention." Huh? But you
Ladies,
know,
do
I
you like
mean,
pancakes?
you just call cap and keep it moving. But yeah, no, to tie that in and be like, yeah, see, we had this here all along. And if you go back, you can see instead of like, you know, oh well, you know, Itachi was always a secret agent the whole time. Like, I don't know about all of that.
Yeah,
Or
no.
like, you know, how I pointed out the other day when I was rewatching Dragon Ball Z, and then they like the way they explained the Saiyans in the first part of the show of Dragon Ball Z is not how they depict the Saiyans on Namek. And then it changes even more when they did the Bardock movie.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's like they didn't I don't think that Toriyama, God bless the dead. I don't think that Toriyama knew or had it mapped out like that when he was doing it in the beginning. I don't think Kishimoto had it mapped out like that
Yeah.
in the beginning. You know what I mean? They kind of went on the fly and it worked. But I mean, Persona 5 definitely knew what it was doing when they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, this is gonna be that. That is gonna be the even the stuff with Shido from the beginning is just like it all.
Yeah, it all
You
tied
don't feel like
together.
anything. Yeah, you don't feel like anything was pulled out. And I as somebody who
Except for
tries to write
Haru. Haru
stories,
was definitely pulled out. Like
well,
we need
Haru,
more Haru
well,
representation.
I mean, Haru, yeah, Haru kind of got. I don't even know. Is you let me know if this is like PG-13 to say or R. Haru kind of got shafted
You
because
can't say that on this stream. April Fools.
yeah, but she got shafted because um she had to get sacrificed for the whole the part of our team wants to break out on his own and prove that, you know, he doesn't need the team. So she just happens to be a part of like Morgana's little arc instead of being her own development or whatever. And then
Yeah.
when they try to shoehorn it in with it being her dad, and she's not fine with it, but she's fine with it, but it is what it is and whatever. And that's why I was expecting like her to kind of hold a grudge, even though she's like the peaceful, docile, mature type. Like I kind of expected her to not be down with Akechi um, when it came to him to do what he had to do. But yeah, so she just ended up being like an unfortunate sacrifice to Morgana's development.
Yeah, she should have definitely been the A plot and Morgana the B plot, but like I get it, like Morgana definitely was there from the start with Kamoshida and then Madarame. And then by the time it got to Futaba, like obviously Futaba's like the big brains of the operations. And like I could see how that makes Morgana feel after he's been with the group for that long. But it's like, Morgana, Morgana, are you really about to do this right now? Like,
Yeah,
you know good
because
and
you
well you're
because you
valued.
have to.
But
You have to.
in that same breath, I could see that like if this was like, I mean I know there was an anime for it, but I never watched it. And if they took the Persona 5 game and they put it in like an actual anime from front to back and it wasn't just highlights of like what you remember from the game, I could see someone in the friendship group feeling like they are lesser than, just because of how the dichotomy works. And like they have stories where that could work. Like I remember in season 3 of Avatar where Sokka was just kind of like Aang's the Avatar, Katara can do water, Zuko's got the fire, Toph is earth, but like I just have a boomerang. And they're all like, yeah, but like you're the brains of our operations. Like they can still get stuff done, but like Sokka's the one who really plans it out and then they all act on it. Like everyone has such a
Hmm.
critical role to the group that if you remove one of them, the whole dynamic just becomes funky. I think the same thing could
Right.
have happened in Persona. The only difference is that like everyone can do a persona and everyone can punch really hard. So it's like, how do you take a story like what they did with Avatar and let those same feelings show for Morgana? Because like I was on Morgana's side. I just didn't like that they gave him like the big finale speech when we're fighting her dad. And it's like, no, this should be Haru's time to be in the spotlight. But
Right.
like they just didn't give it to her, and that's what was bothering me. But other than like everything leading up to that, I was okay with. But like I'm actually playing Persona 5 Strikers right now, and I'm technically on the boss that's supposed to parallel Haru, and everyone in my stream is basically joking that like Morgana better not steal the spotlight from her this time. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, because then it's just going to be like, all right, I guess Atlas just hates, pink-haired pastel girls or something like that. So
Yeah, Haru was just like they pushed her in there because I mean sometimes you hear about stuff like that with games like, oh, this person was originally supposed to be a companion but they're not, or this person wasn't supposed to be a companion but they are. I think that I know you don't know, but Baldur's Gate 3 kind of did that with a one of their characters in there named Minthara, where she you had to go through all these crazy like roundabouts and whatever to get her on your team, or you had to do an evil playthrough, which a lot of people wasn't really trying to do, but they liked, people watch videos and people seen her as a companion and they're like, man, I wish we could get her on our team if we didn't have to like, slaughter a whole village or something like that in the game. Um, and then they went in there and they patched it where it's like, all right, well, you don't have to do that, but you can add her if you take these steps or whatever, and everybody's kind of happy. But yeah, you see these changes on the fly, and I mean changes on the fly are acceptable in some cases, and they work out in some cases, and they're good in some cases. But yeah, you really got to tip your cap to people who have a whole intricate plan laid out, and they lay the foundation and everything pays off later, which if you're really observing and paying attention, you could have got it in the beginning. And some people maybe did, but a lot of people didn't. But there's no real holes in the plot other than maybe some of your characters wasn't as developed as they should be. So you gotta kind of tip your cap to something like that, I think. What do you think about some of these shows and animes and mangas and even games if you want to that kind of like lose their way?
I mean, it could be a whole factor of things, executive meddling, trying to trace the trends, listening to the quote unquote fans and bending to them. Like, it's there's a lot of moving pieces to it that's going to determine the success of a show. Like I always loved that Isayama never buckled for what the ending of Attack on Titan was going to be from manga and in anime. And like it's at the end of the day, it's their story to tell. They're gonna feel the most connection to these characters than a fan ever will, because at the end of the day, the creators are just that, the creators. They know these characters better than the fans will ever. I know that sounds
Right.
crazy, but like that just seems fundamentally right. Now, there are going to be some people that look more into these characters in their own interpretations based on like where their heads are at in their life and then go off of that, and like the creator might not have compensated for that or had that in mind, but like this story is only the way it is, and it's only being talked about the way it is because of the creator's idea. I don't know, like the anime of today, like they do these like 13, 24, 25 bursts of episodes, and like if your show's not popping by like episode 24, 25, good luck coming back for like round two, you know? And I think that sucks just because the shows that are going to be like, you know, 500 plus now are like so long and gone by now. Like I know One Piece is still standing. Like One Piece has been around for so long that like you've seen its animation change like 3 times, you know? But we're never going to get current shows of today like that anymore. Like one of those isekai shows, you know? You can understand that they can keep coming back with new seasons, but the amount of like substantial hyphenness that comes with it, you're gonna be like, unless that's the only particular type of show you like. It hits differently from like Dragon Ball Z being up for like 200 plus episodes and Goblin Slayer being up there for like 200 episodes, you know? It's just a different vibe, and I always I always say this when I'm streaming anime games, but I don't know how to articulately put it yet. But like anime of old talked differently, moved differently, carried itself differently. And the new anime just doesn't do it the same way. Everything is fast and vibrant and fluid and clean and polished and perfect. It's kind of like a really creepy allegory to Boruto now that I think about it, but that just proves Boruto's legit. But like the newer anime just is so polished because it just knows not to look out for the pitfalls of the old industry, but it's like that's kind of also what made it perfect, you know? Like Yu Yu Hakusho, if we're looking at just its animation, is pretty clean for its time. Rurouni Kenshin,
Mm-hmm.
Big O. Hellsing was a show that was really well animated, but I can only imagine the amount of time it took to get it to that level of polish. Now we can do that pretty easily today with like digital art. And gone are the days, or almost gone are the days, are people like literally hunched over their cell boards and making a drawing, flipping the page up, rinse, repeat for 100 plus frames. Everything is just so computerized that it really does show like the perfection in it. But when I look at those older shows like Afro Samurai, like that show just has this level of grit to it. Even though it's a clean looking show, it just has this level of grit to it where like we call it in like filmmaking dirtying the frame. Old anime did that so well, so effortlessly, so flawlessly that when the new anime tries to do it, it feels so manufactured and forced. Like we already got the scene done, let's just throw something on there to make it look aesthetically pleasing. And it's like, nah. So how I look at it, take Midoriya, Itadori, Asta, Tanjiro, and put them all together in the same room and ask me, what do they do differently? I couldn't tell you. Other than their colors being different, they kind of all do the same thing. And that's fine, because it's shonen. They're supposed to do that. They're in a shonen anime. Shonen anime characters act like shonen anime characters. Shoujo characters act like shoujo characters. Like, these are genres and tropes for a reason. But, like, when you don't do anything with it, and people are trying to tout it as, like, the big whatever, you get someone with the untrained ear that's just kind of like, okay, well, let's see what's so great about this. It's definitely, like, your mileage will vary on a case-by-case basis in what you're into. But, the shows that are like the main, it's like what makes them that is because they took risk. They did things that were different and they stick on their guns with that and continue on doing that. Like Demon Slayer is just another run of the mill, I gotta stop the demons, and the only difference is my sister's one of them, which is no different from how Aaron was like, I want to kill all the Titans, but he's a Titan. They have those Achilles heels, paradoxes, contradictions in a character where it's like, okay, how do you move through your world knowing what you know? You could take Nezuko, replace her with a pit bull, and the story is still the same. You know what I mean? So anime of today just focus really on those tropes that you're familiar with seeing, and then they just tell their story. And if that works for the newer generation and that'll get them into anime, cool. If once they get privy enough to like anime, they'll most likely want to venture out and explore and see other things to chase that higher high. So I'm not worried about it in regards to that. But like when I look at the two industries, it's just a night and day difference.
Yeah, I also feel like anime back in the day was less worried about, you know, offending people or, worrying about this or that, and they just really wanted to tell the story specifically about what they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And, they incorporated their themes, they built their characters. Um, and I mean, it's obviously the difference in the time too. Like, I mean, we could pretty much say the same about everything back in the day. You could say the same thing about like games. Like, it wasn't as mainstream then as it is now. So I mean, you can make your game like somebody else's, and then they'll be like, "All right, cool. Hey, I play Fortnite Monday through Thursday. I'll give Valorant a try today on Friday or whatever the case may be. Close enough.
Yeah.
I play Overwatch, so I'll give Apex a shot on Friday because close enough, whatever. Same thing with like anime, as you were saying, like these characters, these shows pretty much do the same thing, except with slight twists. Same thing, different flavor. Yeah, I give it a shot. And I mean, it was kind of like that back in the day too. Like you said, mainstream stuff. People break in watching. Break in watching Dragon Ball Z. You might break in watching, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. And then you dig deeper, and then you get into something else like Evangelion or something different. Cowboy Bebop. Uh, Something not as big back then. But no, I feel like a lot of these things told their stories. Like, like I was looking at something on thing. Have you ever watched Black Lagoon?
Yeah. I've seen Black
It was like
Lagoon.
Black. It was like Black Lagoon could not be made in today's time.
Oh,
Like I was looking
absolutely
at some
not.
of the things.
I mean,
I
it
was
definitely could. Like,
like,
if Netflix can make some fourth generations of Good Times, whatever that controversy is about, they could bring Black Lagoon back.
I mean,
Like,
it
yeah.
like the amount of outrage that and I mean I get it because even when I'm watching something like the Boondocks, I'm like, yeah, maybe today, like I doubt it. You know what I mean? The kind of thing, and that's what they're saying they're worried about with GTA 6 coming out in either next year or 2026. Like, what is it gonna be? Because if they go on how they've been going on, which I think they should,
Hmm.
if they go on how they've been going on, people are gonna cry and people are gonna think, and for the people who are business minded, which that's what everybody is nowadays, it's obviously gonna hurt the business because you're gonna have that certain group of people shouting outrage and trying to bug out like they was bugging out over Hogwarts Legacy. So if you make something like Black Lagoon today, people are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, this is unacceptable." Da 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 da. Da. And I mean, the companies might be like, "Yeah, we're kind of worried about this and that or whatever." Especially with them trying to, if they make it for the purpose of trying to push it over in the West over here,
Hmm.
then it's gonna be like, and we don't know because we don't know if we can market it, and these people are already bucking about this and that and whatever. So it may not fly, with some of the subject matter, or they have to tweak it to make it acceptable for today. And when you do that, you lose the soul of what made it a hit back
Yeah.
in the
Like, if you
day.
got
You know what I'm saying?
if you got a four kids, it's like, what are we really doing at that point? If you just let it be as it is, let it see if it can stand the test of time on its own. And if not, it'll just be forgotten by the wayside, and society will move on. Like, but yeah, Black Lagoon was cool. I remember that show. I was watching that and Future Diaries back to back. Um,
Future Diary is
yeah,
insane.
it is. It is. It's definitely like a blink and you're just kind of like, what's happening kind of show. But like, um, I watched Future Diaries way before Death Note, and when I was watching Death Note, I was like, man, this kind of reminds me of Future Diaries, but like it's a bit cooler. Like the whole cell phone thing, I don't know. There was just something about it where like I wasn't jiving with like Future Diaries till like episode like 9 ish, but I ended up watching it. I think I watched it like 3 times in my lifetime. So like on second viewing, I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, like I get where this show's going now. This is pretty cool. This is a cool concept. Um, but yeah, shows like that just where like they have to like really establish like the setup first before they just get into it. I'm always just kind of like, okay, get your notebook out because we're about to throw a lot at you. And I was kind of the same way with like Fate Stay. I started with Stay Night, and then I watched Zero, which I think people say do Zero first and then Stay Night, but I'm more
No,
of a
no, 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 no,
yeah,
no,
I'm sorry.
no.
I'm more of a, as they release kind of thing. So I started with Stay Night. That's the one with Shiro, right? As the main character.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Stay
And
night
then
zero.
and then I watched
Sure.
the Blade Works one at some point, and then I watched Fate Zero. And like I think it's an okay show. Like I don't know. I don't know what I was looking for in a show like Fate Zero or whatever it's called, because it was recommended to me by my big brother. So like when I watched it, I was just kind of like, okay, I don't really know what I'm looking for, so I'm just gonna watch it as it is, and it was enjoyable in that regard. But would I go back and like watch it again? Probably not. Probably
I
not.
mean, as somebody who's watched Blade Works like 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that so that's pretty cool because the three, so there's Blade Works, there's Stay Night, and then there's Heaven's Feel. They'll tell the same story but with variations, and then it breaks off into like a different story. So you might be looking at it thinking like, oh, this is lining up as the same or whatever, whatever, whatever. And then all of a sudden episode two hits and somebody dies that didn't die in the last one. You're like, oh shoot, this is not the same story. So it kind of messes with you like that. Because it's off the visual novel, you know what I mean? So the game does it where it's like, hey, you have three different routes that start and then they diverge into different things. Um, but Blade Works is my favorite because it's Shiro versus Shiro. You know what I mean? So if you want to break it down into themes, it's like what you think you want to achieve as your dream comes from the future and confronts you now, telling you this is what you think you want, but I'm telling you you don't want it. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go because I did it. You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
just like when you get to thinking like that, you're like, whoa, you know, and it distracts you because you're like, yo, these fight, like what drew me in, like when I watched the animation, I was like, man, these fights is crazy because obviously, you can't have that level of the visual novel doesn't have that level of animation. It was made in the 90s or early 2000s. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have that level of animation in the visual novel. But watching the anime, you're like, man, this is crazy. Um, but that theme for Blade Works is why I rock with that so much. It also has your boy Gilgamesh in there, probably the most. Um,
Yeah.
I think I think he's like the final boss in Stay Night, but he's not really seen until the end. And I think in Heaven's Feel he's not that big of a deal either. Um, but I think in Blade Works he's pretty big throughout. But yeah, so it's probably the theme and Shiro, because I think those are kind of cool. He's a guy who's out here fighting with heroic spirits, and I mean, he has really no idea what he's doing. He's not trained for this. Like we was talking about in Zero, where it's like, all right, you got Saber and then you got Kiritsugu, and Kiritsugu could like kill the master and it's a wrap. Or Saber could kill the servant and it's a wrap. Or they can just race and see which one gets the other one first. They're both going at it, or that, like, they're like the dream team over here. But when you see Shiro, it's like, all right, Saber's got to kind of look out for Shiro because he's gonna throw himself into the fight and take blows for her, and he's not supposed to be doing that because if he dies, she loses, and he's gonna be dead anyway. So,
Right.
I think that one hit on a lot of different cylinders that I didn't even know what it was either. But when I was digging into visual novels, people are like, oh yeah, this is like the creme de la creme. This and a couple of other ones, like you gotta get into this one. And I was like, all right, let me see what this is about. And then I was reading, I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of get down with this and whatnot. Um, yeah, the fate is good. It's just people will get intimidated. Like when you look at One Piece, you see, damn, 1,000 episodes. Like, whoa, that's a lot to get into. And then when you go let me look up the Fate series, and you see like 18 different shows and whatever, and you're like, well, where do I start and what do I do and what's this one and what's that one? I mean, going on to what you said about, do you watch Fate Stay Night or Fate Zero first? You do the Stay Night first because Zero is while Zero is the prequel, it doesn't hold your hand. Like Fate Zero
Yeah.
starts popping off, and it expects you to know about the servants. It expects you to know what the Grail War is. It expects you to know what the roles are. It expects you to know who Saber is. Like you're supposed to know, which is also linking that back to Star Wars. Kind of why I'm like, maybe you watch maybe you watch the original Star Wars from the '80s or the thing first, because the prequels, they expect you to kind of know who Anakin is. They expect you to know, or this is Obi-Wan, and they expect you to know about the Sith and stuff like that because they talked about that in the original Star Wars. So they're kind of operating off you having that knowledge already. They're
Right.
not
Yeah,
expecting
I
you
don't know.
to
I
go
think it'd be
over it.
silly to start with one, two, three. So yeah, no, just I like to do them in the order that they came out, just because like when it was being written and coined at that time, it was just kind of like we may not know if we're gonna come back to do another one, so let's do this one like it's our last. And I'd rather just see it like that. I'd rather just see it like that. Four, five, six, one, two, three. Whenever I get into Star Wars, I don't know. When I had that talk with you and your cousin, I was just kind of like, you know what? I shouldn't have
Well, we
asked.
tell you, we tell you like the first six. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The last three is kind of optional. Like I don't know, like for people who ask me about like The Godfather is my favorite movie. It's up there with The Dark Knight, and The Batman is kind of trying to throw itself in the conversation the more I watch that. But yeah, I'd be like, yeah, watch Godfather 1, watch Godfather 2. Godfather 3, I mean, is really up to you. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't really rock with The Godfather 3, and you find a small niche group of people like, yeah, I thought it was okay, or I liked it, or whatever. And we're like, yeah, we kind of don't claim y'all, but, do what you want to do. But, it's up to you. Like, so
Wow,
with
it's
Star
deep
Wars, it's
out
the same
here.
thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's deep. It's like that, because, not we don't claim you, but it's like, nobody's rocking with Godfather 3. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody walks up to you or me or anybody and says, yeah, my favorite movie was The Godfather 3, the first thing I feel like should be asked is, did you watch the first two? And then if they say yeah, then you just look at them like they're crazy. Because that movie's just on a different level. Like with Star Wars, you get a bit more accepting because like it's generational. You know what I mean? So four,
Right.
5, and 6 is like our parents' Star Wars. 1, 2, and 3 would be like our Star Wars. And then 7, 8, and 9 might be like, young people coming up now Star Wars. So
Yeah.
it's like when I was a kid, you couldn't tell me like episode 3 wasn't the best. But if you go to talk to somebody else, like older, they kind of be like, you can't tell me Empire Strikes Back wasn't the best. And I could be like, now I'm older and I see them all. I'm like, you know what? If somebody tells me Empire Strikes Back is the best, is their favorite, whatever, I can accept that. Because back then, like out of the original trilogy, that was definitely the hardest movie of the three. And they did what Infinity War did first, where they ended it with the bad guy winning. And
Wow,
it's
this
like,
goes deep.
so it throws you for a loop like that, and it's like that was the movie. That was the movie. And Luke, I am your father. All like that's what kicked it all off. That's what made it thing. So episode 3 for me, because episode 2 is like a one that I like,
Hmm.
but I can admit that it is slow. It's kind of whatever. It's not the best. Episode 3, everybody's like, yeah, that's the one. You know what I mean? Out of the three from that era, 1, 2, and 3, yeah, episode 3 is the one. It
But it's
it
like
sets up
we
the.
couldn't have got there if we didn't have one and two. Like if someone said like, "Hey, I like The Godfather 3," right? Now I haven't seen the Godfather movies, but like, let's say I did, I'd be like, "Okay, you like The Godfather 3? Like, what do you like about it? Like have like a genuine conversation about it, right?" And it's like at the end of the day, they like 3 because they got through 1 and they got through 2, and maybe something about the third's cinematography, directing, depiction, and presentation of what happened in that movie really resonated with them. There's some people I know, like 3 on my hand, that like The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. And like, when I tell you that movie is straight dog water, it's really, really bad. But like, I can't knock that on someone else. Like, it spoke to them in a way emotionally that didn't for me, and that's fine, you know? I may not see what they see in that movie, but I can see why kids love the cinnamon toast taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. You know what I mean? Like, it's just things like that. So I just let bygones be bygones, and I'm happy that I'm happy that media can just be this nexus point, and then you figure out the rest of it when you engage with it. I think that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
That
And
also goes for the Joker movie.
I'm not even responding to that today, so you're gonna have to try again. I mean, on a little thing I'm a jiggy, like seeing what's going on with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and what they did to the Joker. I mean, you know, I'm not even thinking about the Joker movie right now. But yeah, no, I think it is cool that, you know, when it's generational, like, but I mean, I don't know, like, going all the way back to like a thing losing its way. I feel like The Godfather 3 just, you know, it didn't pick up on what the first two laid. Like it tried, it did, but it just looks like, you know, sometimes you get the movies where, you know, they're like, all right, everybody come back, let's do this movie. And you're just like, yo, what the heck is this, bro? Like, holding this one up to these other movies, I think like Terminator kind of gets like that. I think some people are saying like, you know, some of the Matrix movies get like they just go too long, or they just go on for too much, and they kind of just lose their way. And that's why, you know, maybe certain animes don't need like 1,000 episodes, 100 episodes, 200 episodes. If, you know, you're gonna think, I think Kenshin did that, because I think Rurouni Kenshin has like 90 something episodes, but the main story ends at like 50 or 60, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, and Naruto did the same thing.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last 30 or 40 is like filler. But I mean, to their credit, oh yeah, that's right. Cause Naruto does do that.
Naruto has 9 seasons, and even though it was hard to figure out back in the time when a season ended and where it began, having the actual box sets in front of me, like box sets 1 through 4, or box sets 1 through 9 are like the main story, and in those 9 boxes there's only like 2 quote unquote filler episodes. One's a recap and one's a legitimate filler, but everything else up to like the last episode where it's like the canon story, it's all story, and then everything else after that is just like the filler. I like to look at them as like, I don't want to say anthology, because like Naruto just obviously was not an anthology, but like if modern anime today want to do like filler, they should try their hand at anthology stories. That'd be fun to see, because like it's filler, but at the same time it's like it's filler if you take it seriously. But I know different communities feel ways about what's final and what's not, and what applies to the story and what doesn't, you know?
So what do you mean by anthology? Like, you mean like history and stuff like that?
No,
like
just like having side stories, essentially. Side stories within the greater world. So like Naruto had the anthology series when it did like the Kakashi story, the Shikamaru story, the two Itachi stories, things like that. So it's filler, but it's filler in a blank period, so you still take it as if it was like actual canon. But because it's never been animated, man, that might just be the issue too. Because it's not animated, people don't count it as canon. But like, I see the Itachi stories as canon, I see the Kakashi stories as canon, Shikamaru story, Gaara story, etc.
Oh, you mean like when they did the books? Okay,
right. But these are things that happen in a blank period, but it's like it's still considered canon to the anime and the manga. But because it's not animated, people don't look at it as something that should be accounted for. But it should be, because it explains why they act the way they do if they show up in something animated. So like if animes played around with that idea and maybe not filler to like, you know, pace themselves from the manga and all that, I don't know, people might have a different reception towards it. People might have a different
I agree,
reception
because I
towards
mean
it.
I love all of those. I love the Nagato in them. I love Obito in them. Kakashi, Itachi. Though I will give credit to some of the other fillers in Shippuden. When my favorite ones was the Chikara episodes.
Bro, that was a movie. I don't care what no one says. That was a movie.
I
That
like
was a
those
movie
ones.
written for TV.
I like those ones. I liked when they did the Infinite Tsukuyomi with the dream sequences and whatever, everybody's different
Hmm.
dream, and then they retold the Naruto story if like the Uchiha massacre didn't happen, if Naruto didn't lose his parents, and all to pretty much say like we're just pretty much gonna end up at we pretty much would have ended up at the same place anyway, except more people would have been alive. But
Right.
because it just goes to show that like Naruto and Sasuke was always destined to do this. You know what I mean? Like they was always destined to be this way, whether they had it all or they didn't have it all, or whatever the case may be. Like you would just change the 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 details a little bit, but they were still gonna do their thing, how they're doing their thing anyway. But I like those ones. But yeah, no, I agree. If that's what you meant by like anthology, or if that's what that means, like yeah, I think that going back and telling these stories that haven't been told, or things that a lot of people like guessed about or whatever, would be great, would be good. Because I had heard that after Naruto was over, and I mean obviously I think it was probably a wild rumor or something like that, but I had heard they was planning on maybe telling a thing about Minato, and instead they went and did Boruto.
Well,
And so I'm
they did
like,
a
oh,
manga of Minato's story, and like it's fine, but it's like I think if you start to demystify the character, it takes away from him. Like if people knew that Batman was Bruce Wayne, they're just gonna know that he's a billionaire in a suit. Like if you demystify the myth, it don't work as if you didn't know them, you know? So like Minato just had like that level of cool factor. It was like, hey, why does this guy have a flee on sight order? Shh. Like we don't talk about it, you know? It's like we don't need to see it. We just need to know that he's just that guy, you know? But
well, I mean, I
they
wonder
want to
about that
spoil.
because do you feel like, because I mean we know a lot about Itachi now. Do you feel like he's like demystified?
Oh, absolutely. But he's also a retcon that works. And when he shows up part one of Naruto, the only thing going for him is that, like, wow, he's Sasuke's brother. He's like Sasuke, but even more brutish. And he has Sharingan. Like,
Well, I mean that's because that. So you said when he shows up in Boruto.
no, when he shows up in part one of Naruto,
Oh, in
he's
part
just,
one.
his whole thing is that, like, wow, he's like Sasuke. Like, if Sasuke's this depressing, I wonder what his brother's like, you know? And they never talked about that side of him, and you only knew who he was based off of Sasuke's vitriol towards him. So we were like, man, like
Right.
if Sasuke's getting an emotional register, this dude must really be hot stuff. But like they didn't tell you that he like outright like killed his can until Sasuke said something about it, you know? He's being very vague and ambiguous about it in like the first handful of episodes where he's like, you know, my goal is to kill a certain someone and I don't like anything. And it's like, okay, easy there, Donnie Darko. But like you knew who Itachi was clout wise because of Sasuke's impression of him. And that's how you put the two together. But then once they started saying like, yeah, he had to like kill his clan because there was gonna be a coup d'etat. There was like infighting in the village. It would have caused a civil war. Like again, the political intrigue, I think for me is what works for Itachi's retcon. But if that stuff wasn't strong and they told you why Itachi did what he did, I'd be like, yeah, that wasn't really cool, man. And I feel think like he's. I mean, again, retcon that worked, but at the end of the day, he killed women and children. He wiped out his legacy because he didn't want the stability of the Leaf Village to crumble right after, because that's what would have happened.
Well, no, I mean he had to, because I mean it's that philosophical thing. Do I sacrifice many to save the few, or do I sacrifice few to save the many? Because
Yeah,
I mean we
and
already
they
we
and
already
they
know if go
and they
ahead.
depicted that really well, and that's why I'm like, okay, Itachi telling us why you did what you did and where your head was at, that worked. Cool.
Well, it worked too because he didn't even tell us. Obito told us.
Well, yeah, because like he was telling it to Sasuke. So like
Yeah, he was telling to
if
Sasuke.
anything, we're a piece of Sasuke because like it's like you really don't know what's going on. You know, we've only seen the
Yeah.
fighting aspect of the show, but to keep the villages in the states that they're in, a lot of blood had to be spilled. You know, so like we never saw that side of it outside of just like the Chunin exams and the fights between Naruto and Sasuke. Like I think by the time I got to the fourth grade ninja war, it was getting a little silly that Naruto's friendship with Sasuke was more important to him than the war. But like at the end of the day, for some people, that's really what it is. Like when your life flashes before your eyes, you're probably thinking about the thing that's the most impactful towards you. You could be in the middle of like the Third World War, but like you're like, man, I want to see my family, you know? I don't care about this war. So when I see it like that, I'm like, okay, quote unquote demystifying something can work because then it opens up even more for you to appreciate that character in a new light. But for Minato, where it was like he was a prodigy, he was really smart, he was pretty affluent when it came to jutsu, and he could think on his feet really well. And then you mix him with the Uzumaki clan, okay, now he knows how to do ceilings really well. Cool. What else are we gonna have him do? I don't want to say he's
But there's a
written
lot
to.
because his story ties into Jiraiya's story, ties into Kakashi's story, ties into Obito's story, ties into Kushina's story, ties into certain things about Orochimaru, and
Right, but
when
these
they was
things
picking
all
him as
happen
the
at big gaps. Like Obito died that day while Minato was fighting in the war. He didn't have time to go down there and save Rin and Kakashi. And even if he did, it
yeah.
wouldn't
So we
matter because
gotta
the village was attacked. So it's like if he was involved in these things, sure, things probably would have played out differently. He probably would have went right after the Masked Man after he saved his wife and his kid and got them all squared away because he had a mark on Obito's back. He would have basically did everything that Naruto was supposed to do, and then we would have never had Naruto's story. And if that's the case, just make Minato's story. But if you make his story, it's like, one, you already know what's gonna happen, so it's not gonna hit you the same way. Two, you're like, okay, Minato is just basically busted and he's not meant to lose. What do we do with him? You know, he's not
well,
like
I mean, we
super
know
duper uber powerful, but
we
it's like, where are the stakes at with him? He's basically a prodigy. Like he's what Naruto would be if like Naruto just had like the actual tutelage and mentorship to be where he's at, like his dad. Minato just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, and he had a lot of extraneous factors on top of him that caused him to move a certain way where it's like, okay, can I beat the Masked Man right now? Possibly. But like I gotta worry about my wife and my kid. Otherwise, what's the point in all this, right? Then who's really gonna
Mhm.
stop him? But like when you see his one shot manga story, it's really just about him making the Rasengan and giving it a silly name. And it's like, why are we doing this? Like, is it really important that you know how to do Jipu, Shipu, Senko, Redondon, Zoroshiki? Like, okay, great sounding name of syllables, but like, what does this tell to the greater story? Like, and his whole thing with Jiraiya was that like Jiraiya thought it was gonna be him, but it wasn't. It was Naruto. So like even Jiraiya's
Right.
story is constantly changing as it comes. Like again, another external factor is that Kishimoto did not have all this figured out. Minato wasn't even a factor of the story until Kishimoto actually became a dad. That's when
Right.
Minato and Kushida started playing more of a bigger role in the story, but that wasn't until Shippuden. But in episode 1 through 220 of Naruto, he was a non-factor. He was the Hokage, but he was just a placeholder to be like, hey, he's another champion of the village that people accepted as their own. But like he never played a vital role into like pushing Naruto to want to be the Hokage, which I think would have worked better. But like again, Kishimoto didn't have anything written out for him like that until he actually became a dad because now he's gonna write from experience and it's gonna come from the heart.
Yeah. Well, the fourth Hokage was just some like a title. You know what I mean? Like some myth, like you said.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be like the baddest dude, because I mean, even Hiruzen was afraid, to fight him, and all the stories about the fourth saving the village and this and that and the third. So I mean,
Well, he only saved the village one time, right? And then something like that never happened again until technically Pain, because he actually like destroyed the village. But
right,
the next one after that Nine Tails attack would technically be Orochimaru's attack. But like the third Hokage technically beat Orochimaru, handicapped him for the rest of his life if Orochimaru didn't have like 6 contingency plans ready to go. But it's like
right.
if the fourth Hokage at this time of writing is considered to be like the baddest of them all, and the third Hokage is considered to be the professor of all jutsu because that's the title they threw around when he was younger. We haven't even
Mhm.
talked about the second and the first yet because as we see them now, the first could powerhouse all of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When they went back, not when they went, but when they brought him back, and in order to raise Madara's, because see what I'm saying, like in the beginning, the fourth Hokage was supposed to be the baddest of them all, right? And then when it came time to do reanimations and stuff, and Madara is the main villain on the other side, it's like, well, to make Madara this bad dude so bad that we can't even kill him off, we gotta write him off with some bull crap. Um, we gotta raise the first Hokage stock too, because the first Hokage was the one who battled him to a draw, or a win, if you want to call it that. But it was essentially a draw because Madara survived, but he thing. But I guess whatever.
Yeah, but
So,
they had to write that on the first Okage for him to be considered a threat, because this is also the
well, that's
same
what I'm
dude that
saying.
supposedly died to
It's
Kakuzu.
power.
It's like,
It's it's power scaling. So I mean, that's what happens with that, and that's you got to balance the scale of power. So now the first Hokage looks even more ridiculous than Minato. Then you got to power scale Minato by making Minato conquer the Nine Tails chakra in the blink of an eye, and whatever. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's essentially what messed up Dragon Ball Z, and that's why I have beef with the end of Naruto, because it's like you've ended up falling into the same trap hole that they fell into, because it's like now you're just scaling everybody's power, and instead of telling stories about strategy and teamwork and this and that and
no, no,
whatever,
no,
which is,
no. They still have strategy in Naruto and Boruto.
yeah,
I'm
you can
gonna
have
stand by it.
strategy, but
They no, they
but it's
still
like
have strategy
it's
and teamwork in these shows. It's
yeah,
just
but it's
over
yeah, but
layered by laser
it's
beams
not.
essentially.
Yeah,
But
that's what
like,
I'm saying. It's not
okay,
even the focus.
try not to look at power scaling like a line. Don't look at it like a straightforward thing. Look at it as adaptability. Even though they never explained Hashirama could do these things until it was time to specifically talk about his backstory, these ninjas are adapting to situations in real time as they come. So whatever they have in their arsenal, it may or may not work. It just so happens that the heaviest hitters of this world could kind of brute force their way through anything if they wanted to. But if it doesn't work, they're going to adapt and move around to it. So I wouldn't call that like a power scale or a power creep or whatever. Like, it's just whatever they have in their tool set to deal with the situation at hand. Like Minato, you said conquering the Nine Tails chakra. I mean, all he really did was just seal it, and he never had time to practice with the link until subsequent undisclosed time, because obviously it happens off screen. Because the same thing that took Naruto episodes to do, he could do it off screen, right? But it's like Hashirama is still gonna clap him, just because if we're looking at it kit wise, Hashirama literally has the hardest counter to kaiju slash biju level enemies. If he did it with Madara, who had a Kurama, full Kurama, mind you, both yin and yang side, with a Susanoo cloak on top of that, and still beat it. Minato has half of that and maybe a few wits on his end. Again, Minato might be quicker on his feet to get the dub from this, but more often than not, Hashirama's going to take that home just because his kit is that busted, as a lack of better words. I don't know, like, I don't think Naruto fell into the same trappings as Dragon Ball Z, because they do explain how some of these things can come to be, versus with Dragon Ball Z, where it's either we wished for it, we trained for it, which is very vague in and of itself, or we went into the hyperbolic time chamber and we got new powers.
But yeah, no, because I mean, Dragon Ball Z's whole thing is like, yeah, they do that, and then it's like, all right, and then we like, there's so many things to focus on, like Dragon Ball Z. Like, first of all, every villain that comes is stronger than the last, so it just comes into like, what is our solution to this problem?
We must
Training,
hit it harder.
training, training is the solution to every problem. First is training here. It was training with King Kai. It was training with Kami. It was training in the spaceship on the way to Namek. And then they did the whole I forget the exact name for it, but is it Zenkai boost? Where the whole,
Yeah, for the
if you
Saiyans,
bring a
yeah.
Saiyan to the brink of death and then they come back strong. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they come back stronger. Then obviously you
Vegeta
give
was
Goku Super
spamming
Saiyan.
that passive ability.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that, like you like when you see it there, you're like, okay, all right, maybe. But then, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you see Vegeta use it as a crutch, and then it's like, uh-oh. And then it's like, all right, well, the answer to that, all right, let's give Goku Super Saiyan. And it's like, all right, this is the title character, though, it's supposed to be Gohan. But this is the title character. We gave him a form that nobody else can have, the legendary Super Saiyan. Boy, how wrong we were. Because Vegeta comes back. I'm sorry. Before him, Trunks comes from the future, and he's a Super Saiyan. And then you could kind of go like, all right, he kind of went through the same trauma as Goku from another universe. All right, I guess we can. Vegeta's a Super Saiyan. Uh oh. Gohan's a Super Saiyan. Then Gohan gets. Then we got the super modes where they bulk up but don't have the speed. Vegeta found a better version of it. Goku said, "Nah, that idea is whack. It ain't gonna work. So I'm gonna throw that out." And then eventually Gohan gets Super Saiyan 2. Then Goku gets Super Saiyan 2. And Vegeta gets Super Saiyan 2. And we get Kid Goten and Trunks and their Super Saiyans. And that's why I said when Vegeta said, yeah, it's like a bargain sale on Super Saiyans, I was like, yep, it's done right there. You know, that's them. That's their meta thing saying, yeah, everybody's just
Yeah,
transforming now into whatever.
and for what it is, that's Toriyama's way of upping the stakes. If that's what he thinks upping the stakes is, then that's his story to tell. Kishimoto probably saw that because again, he was inspired by Akira and Jackie Chan and was like, here's how I'm gonna make my stakes get higher. You know, it's not that like every enemy in Naruto was stronger than the last. Like, don't get me wrong, Gaara was definitely stronger than Zabuza if we're looking at it power wise, but like at the end of the day, Gaara was a mindless brute. And Zabuza is a fully fledged adult who isn't just some pushover, you know? That's what makes it interesting versus someone like Frieza, who's a powerhouse fighting Vegeta, who's also a powerhouse. We don't really know about like how they really think plans through in the heat of battle. And that's where Naruto shined. If they want to have everyone go Super Saiyan, then like, cool. At some point, you're going to figure out what's important in that and what's not. Like, again, what's the difference between Goku fighting someone and going SS2 versus SS3 on someone? Dragon Ball Z never took the time to answer those questions or show them enough and depict them enough to say like, okay, if Goku's going Super Saiyan 1 on you, then he's just playing around with you. He's just doing a little light work on you. But if he goes into a battle and he instantly goes Ultra Instinct, you're like, okay, I think I know where we're at, you know? And maybe that's just also the downside and the detriment to having like multiple forms, because it's just like each one starts becoming obsolete. When Aang goes into the Avatar state, you know the deal's about to get for real. When Naruto goes into his Fox state, you know, okay, he's at that level where we're in uncharted territory. And then when he fights somebody and like Pain, for example, he goes from no tails to 6, you're like, uh-oh, this is a problem. It depicted that level of power scaling better than what Dragon Ball Z did, unfortunately.
It did depict the power scaling thing better, but that's what I'm saying. Like the reason, so I was gonna slowly break us into this, but the reason why I got into Naruto, like I told you before, was like, all right, it was like Dragon Ball Z, except if Dragon Ball Z took itself a bit more serious, where it's like, all right, people are not just coming back to life at whatever when they die. When they die there. It's done. And then also it was like when you look at how Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, and Sakura to a degree beat Zabuza and Haku on the bridge versus some later battles and whatever. Like a lot of their thing was like, strategy. Like a lot of times Naruto and them went into battles and they were like, it's kind of hard to say weaker knowing what we know now. But I mean, at that time they wasn't as strong as the person that they was facing. They had to use strategy. They had to use planning. Sometimes they, I know talk no jutsu is like a meme or whatever, but pretty much that's what Naruto pretty much did against Gaara and whatever. Though he had to beat him up a bit and he had to rumble with him for a bit, but
Yeah, but
and
that
then
was literally
converted him.
that was a whole like team effort. But the thing was, it was just broken up in parts across a lot of episodes. Sasuke had to deal with him first. Sakura jumped in, and then Naruto showed up. So they technically
Yeah,
did teamwork, but again, the way they depicted it, it was fragmented because it was across like 10 episodes. But
right.
yeah, no, Sasuke was using strategy towards him, but he was like, listen, I don't have the luxury of thinking this through as one would normally do in the actual ninja mission. But it's like, okay, I've got 2 Chidoris left in the tank. I gotta play this smart. But then he realized that, like, oh my gosh, Gar is like a legit powerhouse, and this is a non-factor. Like, I just gotta act. If I don't, I'm never gonna get to, avenge my clan, kill my brother, blah blah blah. And then he popped a third one, and then he realized, oh dang, I'm stuck. I can't do anything. There was consequences to also trying to put strategy in the battle. And then Sakura shows up, and
Right.
then Gaara makes her a non-factor, and then Naruto shows up, and Naruto is able to take what those two already did to him, take that to its logical extreme, and then boom. And if we're really going to get technical about it, the fact that they didn't think these things through is that when Naruto takes Gamabunta and transforms him into Kurama, why didn't Kurama and Shikaku ever have a conversation about seeing each other after so long? Because Shikaku knows Kurama's name, Kurama definitely knows Shikaku's name. He's the first, Kurama's the last. Like, how are we not having a conversation here that's going to set up the Sage's Six Paths down the road episodes later. They didn't think it that far through. So when I come to things of that answer, I'm like, okay, I ain't gonna be too harsh on it because like they were writing this as it came. I think I told you one time, Naruto always used to say Rasengan, Spiral Chakra Sphere, whenever he did that move. It's like, that was so evident of the time that this was the show that everyone was following. And Naruto was just kind of like setting the trend for a lot of other shows at that time, back in 2002. But at some point, once Naruto grew out its wings, it just started doing its own things where like it didn't have to worry about trend chasing and others trying to follow it, because it was just alive long enough in its stage to just do its own thing. And then when Shippuden comes, it kind of resets the board a little bit. You know, everyone's older. What are they going to act like? What are they going to do? What are they going to say? It gets back into Sasuke. It gets back into the ninja battles. There is still strategy. Asuma dying surprised everyone. Their depiction of Shikamaru taking that loss was never seen in Naruto to that level. So like you could tell that Shippuden was like really finding its legs and just doing its own story. But then again, by the time it gets to the fourth grade ninja war, it's like, okay, Naruto knows talk no jutsu. We're going to learn how to beat our enemies with our words and not our fist. I think that's pretty cool. And how they depicted it in some of the battles were better than others. And other anime of that era, like Ichigo would try to talk to you, and then he's like, "All right, whatever, slam big sword down." These things are just constantly moving, revolving doors of just like what inspires the other. And luckily for Kishimoto, this just happened to be the one that really worked, you know? So I don't look into it too deeply. Do you think the Joker could win if he was in that world?
I ain't dealing with you. But anyway, at the same time, like, all right, so maybe me saying that it didn't use, like, I'm not saying that it didn't use strategy, but I mean, you know how we talk when I talk about like Yu-Gi-Oh, you know what I mean, where it's like, and even like how you said about like what's the difference between like the anime now and the anime from back in the day, where it's just like faster and this and that and whatever. Um, they use strategy, but they use strategy like differently. Like that's what I'm saying. Like the bridge battle was like, we got to work together, otherwise we lose.
Right,
Like
but
we
this is
can't
this
beat
is
them straight.
this is also our first introduction into this world. If we're looking at like in video game sense, right, this has to be the tutorial. So they have to show us everything to wow the crowd. Otherwise, we're not really going to be following the rest of this story if the battles are boring, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a shonen show. So they have to show us that side of the anime. And I think it
Yeah,
worked.
but
Like,
now it's just flashy battles and whatever. Like I said, they use strategy still with this and that, and they talk about things. But I mean, when it goes from like, all right, battling on a bridge, maybe destroying a building or two or whatever, to like, all right, now we're on like world planetary devastation, village destroying battles, and whatever the case may be, to world destroying battles, big kaiju monsters on the field, people coming back from the dead, and this and that and whatever. It's just like, man,
I mean,
everything. And that's why maybe it's personal for me.
to be fair, they did have 3 great ninja wars before there where they all fought pretty standardly. Like, if you don't count the Senju clan and the Uchiha's clans internal wars, like the
Well, I
first Great
think that's
Ninja War,
isn't that the first Shinobi War? Wasn't the first Shinobi War just clan wars?
it was, but like it was just basically kunais and shuriken and people stabbing each other really hard, right? There was some ninjutsu applied on top of it, but again, that was just basically a fight with sticks and stones.
Well, no, you can count them because I don't think that I don't think that, I mean, while they was using ninjutsu and stuff, I don't think Madara was summoning Nine Tails, and I don't think Hashirama was summoning wooden statues and whatever at that point, even when they was going at it either.
Right. They were
That
still
came later.
they were still kids at the time, and later
Yeah.
out in their years, again, they start using those abilities. But like, how is that any different from the generation that we end up watching with Naruto and friends? And this is a world that has lived through 3 wars. So why wouldn't they get stronger and adapt with certain things over time, you know? So
Well,
like,
because the way it was sold, wasn't it? Wasn't it supposed? Not. I'm sorry to cut
mhm,
you off, but
go ahead.
the way it was sold was that I think at some point I remember them saying like, you'll never see ninja like Madara and Hashirama again, and so that's why it's kind of like
And who said
we
that?
had. Well, I don't know. I can't remember who said it, but they were supposed to be, when they brought them, when they redid them over, like they were supposed to be as strong as it was. That's why when Madara hit the field, like he was just smashing everybody
Yeah, no,
because
there have always been exceptional like ninja throughout the ninja world after Madara and Hashirama. They might not have gotten to such levels, but like again, we've had Minato, we've had Jiraiya, we've had Kakashi, we've had his dad. Like just because they aren't again destroying buildings with the swing of their uber highest ability doesn't mean that there's something to scoff at, you know? Even though I can attest this to, again, just certain elements of the show getting reworked or rewritten or pushed in a different direction just because of how Kishimoto decided to write it. But like, this is, if I'm looking at just the Uchiha clan, they all believed that they could get their Mangekyo Sharingan by killing their best friend. And it wasn't until Itachi and Shisui to realize that no, that's not the case. But how do we tell this to them? If we tell this to them, is that gonna like cause an upheaval? Like if we tell them the truth about their own clan, how do you think they're gonna respond to that? I thought that was really cool political intrigue, but the show never focuses on it because it's like it's a shonen show. How do we focus on that? How do we translate that into fighting? Because we're a shonen show. And they found their ways to do it. Like, again, Donzo's whole thing in the background was cool to keep the political intrigue of the show there. The Hyuga clan, the Cloud Village, having their beef back in the day. Like, they had little things there, but they never went all in on them. That's why Lee fell off by the wayside. Kiba, Shino, Tenten, all of the Konoha 11. To see where Naruto and Sasuke ended up at the end of the show, before Boruto, it's believable, you know. I wasn't taken aback by the power, or the power creep and how everyone words it, but like Madara just happened to be someone who lived in a different era where they constantly fought, so of course he's going to be uber powerful. Whereas in Naruto's generation there's enough peace sustained, but it's like don't get too laxed. Again, you're doing the graduation academy ceremony, you're going into the Chunin exams because we still need bodies to do missions and commissions, and at the end of the day still serve the feudal lords of your respective lands. But back in Madara and Hashirama's time, it was swing set street 24/7, so I can see why they were the way that they were, and how by the time they get to Naruto's generation, of course they're going to be outclassed. It's actually even funny because in Boruto's story, when Boruto has to fight anybody from his dad's generation, it is a pretty tough battle, and he's like, okay, I gotta really think this through and I gotta do it fast. And then like Konohamaru will show up and like take care of it for them. And it's like, yeah, because Konohamaru came from that time whereas like fighting was more up there, but not as up there as like the first Great Ninja War. So to see the generations play that far along with each other and how that affects each one, I think Naruto's doing a pretty good job with that. Versus like Dragon Ball Z, where it's like it's been Dragon Ball, Goku story, Dragon Ball Z, Goku story, Dragon Ball GT, Goku story, Dragon Ball Super, Goku story. Mind you now, how many kids are we at by this point? He's already had Gohan, he's had Goten. Am I missing anybody else? Videl? No, I'm sorry, Pan. Like Goku's legacy just went through like 3 generations and we haven't touched any of them.
But you're right.
If anything, Dragon Ball Z should already be in its Boruto era, but it's not.
They was trying to be in their Boruto era and Dragon Ball Z, but Shonen Jump wasn't trying to have Gohan be the guy.
And unfortunately, that's I don't want to say unfortunately, but like we end up getting Dragon Ball Z, and what Dragon Ball Z didn't do, other shows looked at that and did it in their own way.
Well, I mean, Boruto, like a story about Naruto's kid is fine. And I know that I know you're big on respecting I know that you're big on respecting the story the way that it's told, but it's like, Boruto in an era where, Naruto done pretty much took care of everything and combined all the villages together to be like one world and whatever. It's like
no, they still separate.
They're separate.
They're just not at each other's throats.
They're separate, but they're like it's like a commission. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah, let's get together and do this and that and whatever. And we pretty much like work together and do all of this and which is fine.
Yeah, but there's still like, animosity towards other villages in the world of
like I honestly believe Boruto probably should have just like the slice of life episodes that Boruto has is probably the ones that I like more because it's just like this is probably kind of what it should have been. Like, what is it like to grow up in this world of peace? We can see what Naruto did, and then we're focused on his kid growing up in this world of peace and trying to get down with that. Kind of like what Asuma would have went through.
Well, I
with
mean,
his
they tried
relationship
that.
with his
They
father.
tried that with his daughter, and Nothing for Nothing. It really was boring. And like, if they started the show like that, like an anthology series, people would have been like, "Oh man, I would have loved to see this as a shonen, like an actual show."
Yeah,
It's
but I
like, what do
mean,
you want? Like, we give it to you, and then you don't like it,
I
and then
get
we
it. Yeah,
don't give
yeah.
it,
So
and
you
you
gotta
still don't like it. You know?
yeah, you definitely gotta pick a lane and stay in it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, because to me, somebody who's like, I kind of softened up on my stance against it, but it's just kind of like, while this whole thing is popping off, I'm just like, man, I know that Naruto and Sasuke and them could just run up in here and just take care of business. So in order for us to make Boruto be the guy, we gotta make him be more powerful than them, which is fine. But I mean, it's just like,
But it's like
again, we're just
they're in different positions of power where it's like, can they get to the battlefield and deal with like whatever Boruto's dealing with? Absolutely. But it's like, if he did that, you'd be like, man, I really want to see what this Boruto kid could do, but his dad keeps spoon feeding him. You know, it's like, you give
well,
them
that's
one
what I'm
thing,
saying.
they
But
want the
but
other
but
thing. It's like,
how but how believable can it? That's what's like when stuff was going on in the village. Like, all right, let's look at Pain for example. Right,
mm-hmm.
when Pain came and thrashed Konoha, he took out Tsunade. You know what I mean? Like it took Tsunade to protect everybody from the almighty push. So Naruto had to come in there and solve the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like the village leader literally could not do it. The village leader now could Hiruzen when Naruto was a kid, could he deal with Shikaku? Probably, but he was distracted by Orochimaru, so he had a legitimate reason why he couldn't be there. Because Orochimaru would have thrashed everything if Hiruzen wasn't dealing with him. So Naruto had to handle that. When it comes to Pain, Naruto had to handle that because Tsunade already tried. But nowadays it's like, yeah, Boruto and them is caught in the situation, but it's like if Sasuke is doing his thing, if he comes back here, it's a wrap. If Naruto jumps out there, it's a wrap. So I
Yeah, and
mean,
that has
and
happened before. It's even happened where Sakura
Naruto's
showed
not gonna
up.
let his son die. Yeah, there was that time. Well, what happened?
No, it's more for like the manga getting adapted into the story, and Naruto legitimately thinking if he has to kill his son if it comes to it. What else can I say other than like Boruto's legit? Like,
So
yeah, no.
why? But why? But why? Why?
But why is
Why do
Boruto
you feel
legit?
like this is legit?
Because
Yeah, yeah.
if Naruto is the anime industry of old, Boruto is the anime industry of new, and it's trying to tell you that there is some things that you can still learn from it, even though it's in a new era. And that is the Rant-A-Way podcast in a nutshell. Boom.
So
Holla
what?
at your
So
boy.
what is the message? Because I'm not ribbing you. I'm just
So
I wanted you to get your
the
opinion.
message of Boruto is basically like the idea of a ninja is timeless. Even though Boruto has a completely different power set, or like how it's depicted of how he is as strong as he is different from like how Naruto got it. Boruto is still a ninja at the end of the day. And whatever he does in life, he's got to do it because he's got his own ninja way. Now, I don't know what you saw or what you heard that made you go, Boruto ain't for me, but like, as someone who wanted to give Boruto a chance because I didn't give Naruto a chance growing up, I'm glad I stuck with this show. Boruto legit.
I mean, what I saw. So mine's comes from like I said, the disappointment towards the end of Naruto, and then I feel like Boruto picked up the ball and continued to run. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about sports. My bad. Um, Boruto picked up that boulder and kept pushing it up the hill. That the end of Naruto kind of just left it, and it's just like, man, we went from like grounded like stuff to like the tree of life, and I felt like Naruto was a different take on a prodigy, but kind of like Goku in the sense of like hard work pays off, and he did work hard, but it kind of like knowing what you know at the end, right? If you go back and you go through it again,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that, oh, this is which one is he supposed to be incarnate? Ashura?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Ashura incarnate. You know what I mean? Or reincarnated. It makes it different when you see him, do the hard work, dig a hole, and then come up through the ground and punch Neji in the chin, saying, it ultimately makes Neji be right. Because
That
Neji was the
or
one talking about
right
fate
that you
and
can't
this and
escape
that
your
and what.
destiny. But
Yeah,
this was
no,
also coming
Naruto was already
but
always
but
destined
this
to
was
be the
also
big
coming from
man
the
in
same
campus.
guy who was upset that he was a side branch and he wanted to get out of it. So Neji, if you can't escape your destiny, why are you trying to get out of the side branch and not like the hand that you've been given?
Because he's
That's
pissed at that.
right, but that's also him trying to fight his destiny. So he is being a hypocrite to Naruto, but that's what made the contradiction and paradox of his character really compelling. Because at the end of the day, even though Naruto, at the end of the story, we know he becomes this prophecy incoming, but like because of his nature and his nurture, he was dealt a different hand. If he didn't have a Ruka in his life, he'd be Obito. If he didn't have Kakashi in his life, he'd be a Madara. You know, like if he didn't have the support system that he did, he'd end up like Gaara. And at some point, somebody would eventually kill him. That's what made
Possibly.
the
Well, I
world
mean, yeah,
building of
probably,
Naruto
yeah.
better than Dragon Ball Z, because even though Goku is like smart when it comes to like fighting, he's still a low class, mid class warrior at best. But they never really
Well,
focus
he
on
was
that.
yeah, he was low class, but his work ethic helped him break
Right,
out. You know what I
but at
mean?
the
So
end of
it's
the
like,
day, he's low class for a reason. He's put in a bracket for a reason. But because of his support system and how he applied himself to the people in his life, he's now considered the strongest dude in his world.
yeah, because he found those things. Like that's what the whole thing. Like Vegeta couldn't understand because he was a slave to the system. Oh, when you're branded this is what you are. This is all you could be. I'm a high class elite because I'm the prince. I was born in the royal family, and my power level when I was born said that I'm that guy.
Right,
But
but look what happened when he said that to anybody.
well, that's what I'm
Frieza killed
saying.
him. Broly threw him around like Tuxedo Man and Sailor Moon. It's like because he lived a life of luxury, he carried himself based off of that. Where you had Goku who started in a different spot, who would have been like, I'm a low class Saiyan. What's the point if I even try, right? But because that's just not how he got down, because he bumped his head, right? He had a completely different outlook on life that in the long run would be stronger, big air quotes here, stronger than Vegeta's, you know? And
Yeah,
I think
he
Naruto had
worked.
elements of that, but they just took it to different levels of like extremes because Dragon Ball Z, you know it for screaming, big beams, and things blowing up in the background. Where Naruto, while it doesn't get to that level yet, it just had like a lot of dialogue that was like, okay, we're gonna do this thing, and here's why we're going to do said thing. And then the show does its thing. So like, I don't know. I think both shows work with what they were given, but like again, Naruto comes after Dragon Ball Z, so it's gonna take notes off something from its prime and then apply it to its own show. And it just happened to
Yeah.
work. He got really lucky because again, not to say Kishimoto's a terrible mangaka, but like he's had works prior that all got canceled.
Yeah, his stuff wasn't
So
popular. Just
like
like, Toriyama and all the I mean a lot of people,
yeah,
they
so
have
it's like if anything, I guarantee you like all these mangaka like know each other, first name bases wise. Like
absolutely.
yeah, why
Or they
wouldn't
look up
you
to each other,
yeah,
they're
why wouldn't
influenced
you
by
like
each
look at
other.
something in its prime and take notes? See something at its
Hmm.
best and then see what you can take to apply it to yours. And I think both shows ended up in a pretty good spot. We're still talking about them 20 plus years later. Like
Oh yeah. They're definitely the top of their class, but that's what I'm saying. Like I mean, yeah, it's nitpicks and it's personal beefs, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I liked because I think I gotta watch it again though. That would be torture to myself. But like I think I was telling this to somebody about Encanto when it was like, oh, they had the opportunity to do this, but they didn't do that. Or actually, I can speak on more about when I was watching. How do you feel about Wakanda Forever?
I never saw it.
You never saw it?
I never saw it,
Alright,
no.
so I mean, I can't really say much about it because I don't want to spoil it for you.
No, please, by all
But
means. I'm not seeing Wakanda forever. Like
I feel like they had the opportunity. So what they did, I think, was kind of, I don't know if I should say safe, but I guess it was safe. They went a route with it where obviously, they had to pay homage to Chadwick, God bless the dead, because he passed away.
okay.
Um, they had to pay homage to him. They tributed his character. All of that was fantastic. They did wonderful with that. But they have Shuri take over as Black Panther. And the problem with the Black Panther the movie as opposed to the books, is they make it so that the what is it called? That drink that you drink gives you like powers of the Black Panther.
Oh, the purple
Whereas
passion.
as yeah, as I was told, the Black Panther kind of got like his Batman going on where he trained and learned these things and did these things of his own fruition. So they give you that power when you drink the thing. So Shuri also gets this power when she drinks the thing. She gets the power of the Black Panther.
Hmm.
And Shuri is somebody who told you she's a thinker more than she's a fighter. She's not really a fighter. She like this is what is told to you in the first movie. Now obviously things changed because real life happened and people passed away.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, yo,
Well,
like she
if
shouldn't
I'm
be.
looking at the external factors, right? Like you said,
Mhm.
we had an actual real world incident happen that's going to affect the production of this movie, and we're going to take
Right.
a character whose real specialty is using their brains and not their fists.
Mhm.
Couple that with the era of girl power, right? For better and for worse. What do you think they're going to do in the marketing team? They're going to make
Well,
you
that's
follow
that.
a character that you've seen in the first movie and maybe liked because you got a few laughs out of her. But like,
Yeah.
it could have went to anybody. They could have gave it to I think his name is Mbaku, M-Baku, the dude
Yeah, yeah,
who,
M'Baku,
yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah,
could have
yeah.
went to him, right? But no, because of other outside factors, political factors at that, they were like, we're gonna give it to Shuri, and then we're gonna do a few
Right.
other things on top of that. And unfortunately, it tainted the whole product. And now Disney took a gamble, and it didn't pay off. So now they got to go
Well,
back
no,
to the
that's
drawing
not.
room. And
That's not even it. Because Shuri being a Black Panther is actually a move that I felt like that should have happened.
no, no, I know, but I'm
But
saying it's everything else underneath that. The whole
no, no,
Namor
no, no.
subplot, the
What
whole Iron
they,
Woman
because
girl. It's like
yeah, yeah, there you go. Because they was gonna
you're
they originally
basically,
said
yeah,
something.
you're basically doing Morgana and Horror all over again.
Well,
I'm totally fine with
they was
seeing an
gonna
Iron Man story.
recast. They was gonna recast Black Panther, and I was like, that's a bad move. They should just make it his sister. But they was saying something about production. She was having problems or whatever, so they was gonna. But they did that, so that's fine. No, my beef with it is they could have told a story, right? Because I think at some point she wanted to kill. So spoilers for Wakanda Forever. If you want to watch that, you might want to put this on mute for a few
Everyone
minutes.
leave
But
now.
but she was gonna kill Namor, whatever. And I think they were saying, oh, if you kill him, he's like a god of his people. So if you kill him, his people is never gonna stop coming for us, right? And she wanted to kill him because he killed her mother. He hit her village and stuff like that. So she had mad hate for him. And she wanted to kill him for revenge and this and that. Like she was dead set on it. And I think they could have probably told a good story about revenge and the consequences that come with it. And it definitely would have set you up for the next movie. Like it would have had purpose. If they had dug into that, like they could have told that story about, yeah, this is what happens when you give into to vengeance and you start this and you're not really thinking about it because you're just so tunnel vision. And Shuri was definitely primed for that. She
She gets
just lost her
Venom.
brother. She just lost her brother. She lost her mother on top of that. Her village was like it was looking real ugly for her. Like everything was going in that direction. And then she said, "You know what? Nah, I'm not gonna do that." And then, Namor was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll be cool, but we're only gonna play cool and we're gonna come back on him eventually. And it's just like and at the end they introduce his son. Uh T'Challa's son. T'Challa got a son. He's a little kid. So the next movie is gonna either
Lil
time
Chala.
skip or whatever, or I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. I was like, they had a chance to really go in a powerful direction and do this and that or whatever. But instead they went for the no, let's do the right thing at the end because this and that or whatever. Complex storytelling they could have did, but instead they did, the easy, simple storytelling. Like, Naruto being like, yeah, no, Naruto was always gonna be the big cheese because he was the son of the fourth. He was trained by Jiraiya. Tsunade and them gave him leverage. Kakashi taught him. this and that and whatever. Like all of these signs and sticks and this and that and whatever. And then you find out, yeah, he's Ashura reincarnated, and he's got Sage of the Six Paths and this and that and whatever. Like you come to find out that it was always gonna be that, instead of just this kid who had the nine tails in him was actually doing the village that wanted to ignore and deny his existence a big favor. He grinded it out from the bottom and turned himself into the big cheese. Now he was always going to be this because he's got all these links and legacies and this and that and whatever, and it's just like
Yeah, but if he didn't have the right people in his life to teach him that stuff, like again, he didn't learn how to do KCM 2 till he met Killer B. If he didn't have the people in his life that got him to where he was, he would have been a Jinchuriki, but he wouldn't have been the best he could have been as we saw him in the way his show ended. So I don't think having Ashura is going to undo his nature and his nurture before he realized that he was in a reincarnation of someone that was more or less like him. I I don't
well, it
think it.
doesn't undo it, but it just shows that here's a kid with all this special treatment that worked for it, and so it's kind of like
Yeah,
it was a question
if
that
he
I
was
was
already a
gonna.
prodigy, why would he have to work for it? If he was a reincarnation, why would he have to already work for it?
Because I
He
mean, that's like
he
saying
but Naruto
can
worked
hard
for
work
it. So him having
and
Ashura
yeah.
in his bloodline lineage doesn't undo the things that he's done.
Well, you can have talent. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't work at what you're doing, the talent is just gonna sit there. You know what I
Right.
mean? Your
And
your
and
potential is
Naruto
just gonna sit
and
there.
Naruto chose to work. He did not know he was a
But I'm saying
prophecy, so
he
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 worked.
he it's like you was putting all kinds of positions where this was always kind of gonna happen as long as you put any kind of effort into it, instead of like, man, you really came from nothing, and you really made yourself something. Like you defied all odds because you was a nobody, and now you're pretty tough. In the beginning, I felt like yeah, he was an Uzumaki, but we didn't really know what that meant in the beginning. Like we definitely didn't know what that meant in the beginning. And then you look at Sasuke, you're like, he's an Uchiha. He comes from this prestigious clan that have Kekkei Genkai that make them even more powerful, you make them even more tough to deal with and whatever. So you're like, oh man, he's probably going places. And he was the son of the what is it, the clan head, and
Fugaku, yeah.
yeah, he was the son of the clan head. He's the brother of the most notorious person from the clan because he just wiped out the whole clan. um yeah, this dude got ties.
Right,
And then Orochimaru.
but if it wasn't for Sasuke's influences, he would have just been another Uchiha who would have eventually died by the wayside because like if his dad didn't motivate him the same way he motivated Itachi, Sasuke probably could have turned into a completely different beast, you know?
Well,
Like
he could have, in the fact that his dad looked down, like his dad compared him to his brother,
right.
and Sasuke just ended up being very competitive, and that was his father unknowingly pushed his youngest son's buttons. You
And
know
I
what I
think
mean?
what makes Naruto work is that the the support system that carries these characters through their thing is what makes them stronger if we're comparing it to Dragon Ball Z, right? Like nobody cares about the Z fighters unless Goku's involved. But if Dragon Ball Z was written in a way where we did care about Goku's support system, it'd be a different story. But like Naruto is somebody who is strong because he has a lot of people backing him up. And Sasuke was strong because it was just him throwing his weight around,
Well,
being a mad child of the world.
we do care about the Z fighters. We do care about them because remember, it's Krillin that makes Goku go Super Saiyan.
Right.
Frieza killing Krillin was the trigger for that, and it's Master Roshi and Krillin that. But I mean, you got to go back to Dragon Ball. But
Yeah, we
it's
don't see
Krillin and
Master
Master
Roshi
Roshi.
again though till when?
Yeah, because in Z he's not as important, no. But I mean that is another indication that Dragon Ball was supposed to. I mean, Dragon Ball Z was supposed to be Gohan, and Dragon Ball was supposed to be Goku. Because Dragon Ball Z, Goku's already the man. You know what I mean? And it's just him getting strong. But it was Krillin that made him Super Saiyan, It's Bulma that found him when he was a kid and kind of got him used to like humanity and whatever. Except for when Gohan, his grandpa, was doing that.
Right.
It's Master Roshi
And if he
that
didn't
really
have those factors, Goku would have turned out to be what?
he either would have been nothing or he would have remembered that he's a Saiyan sent to destroy the world and he would have
Just like
got
with
into that.
Naruto, if he didn't have his support system. At some point, he would have snapped and he would have been like, you know what? I am the strongest tailed beast. Why don't I just do something about it? Boom, village destroyed.
Oh yeah,
But because he
I'm
had
not
people that
knocking.
showed him the time of day, it's like, hey, you're not so bad after all. You're hyperactive, but like, you're cool. And that was
Yeah,
enough to just keep him
Iruka
going one more
and
day.
yeah, yeah. So I'm not knocking the support system. It's definitely the support system is important, but I actually the support system is what's up. But I'm just saying like I hate it that we got into the whole the reincarnation of this and that and the Sage of the Six Paths and this and that and Kaguya and it was all set up from the beginning and you guys got their blood in or whatever that's where you come and it's like man
I
we
mean,
got really like
the chakra had to come from somewhere, and the show just was like, we're gonna explain where it
I
comes from.
no I mean I
Did they
get it but I mean
demystify it? Yeah, but did it work? It had its moments where it worked really strongly. But like, I remember in Dragon Ball Z when like Ozaru's used to be like the big thing to deal with. It was like, oh my gosh, like we gotta fight this thing, a Titan class enemy. Ugh. But like it just stopped being a non-factor. It was just like, okay, you have a tail, big deal. Like,
yeah just cut it off
yeah, like
yeah
it was a big deal when Vegeta was able to become one in the daytime because he simulated the moon and his body responded to it as if it was seeing the actual thing. It's like that's that level of writing where it's like, oh, that's really scary when you think about it. Like he's being methodical about the greatest power he can tap into. But then you don't see it
and he was in
again.
control of his too.
Right. And you don't see it again until GT, where I like GT, but GT's considered non-canon to the Dragon Ball Z, etc. But it's like
Now
we
yeah
don't see that level of power system again till much later. But by the time that pops up again, it's almost a non-factor because we've got a Baskin Robbins bin of Super Saiyans, right? And you're
yep
just trying to figure out like, okay, well, is Ozaru stronger than Goku or is Goku stronger than the monkey, you know? I think this, but like because they didn't flesh those little in between transition moments out, like if they had more moments of like, hey Trunks, you can go Super Saiyan Ascension and get bulky, but just know it's going to come at the cost of something greater that you might need in the heat of battle. If they did more moments like that and then actually have the character realize, oh snap, like Goku was right, like I I need to like balance myself out so I'm not, caught dead in a battle like this. If they had more moments like that, that would have been cool. But Dragon Ball Z was like, no, introduce stronger character. Our heroes will become stronger. Heroes will beat character. Rinse and repeat till the end. And
hmm
Naruto did something a little
yeah
differently. And I think that's cool.
they did do it different. So yeah, I was going against it, but I do want to give it its props. Yeah, it definitely did hit more with focusing on explanations and stuff like that, and telling you about the people in between, and getting into the talking and the strategy and explaining the world and the characters and stuff like that. It took more beats to tell its story. It took more moments to develop things and stuff like that. I personally just you know how I feel. I feel like it should have wrapped up after he beat Pain. And it's sad too because I liked the five Kage summit. I was hyped in the beginning of the reanimation things to see some of these matchups and whatnot, but coming to the end where it's like, yeah, Madara is so powerful, we don't know what to do with him. We're just gonna, write him off real quick in a way that, you know, kind of came
I
from out of
I I was
nowhere.
invested by the heel turn, and like it's kind of a very funny parallel. Like you think it should have ended after Pain, I think Dragon Ball Z should have ended after Frieza. But what we got after was pretty enjoyable. So like, who knows? Maybe we're both reincarnates of like Martin Luther King and like Malcolm X. Who knows,
Malcolm
right? Like,
X.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, it's possible. I mean, it was what it was, man. And nobody can take nothing away from Naruto. Nobody can take nothing away from Dragon Ball Z. Like you said, we used to talking about it 20 years, after it's done. Boruto's still going, Dragon Ball Super's still going, and we feel how we feel about it. But, you know, um, they had the sauce because they're still going. So, they
yeah.
obviously know more. and all we can do is sit here and talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I said, man, I
Listen, to
got into
be alive and that long and relevant, you gotta change with the times.
man, and I
And
got into Naruto 2013, I want to say, and
oof,
so yeah, that's 11 years ago.
that's crazy. 2013. Wow.
Yeah, 2013. Storm 3 came out 2013, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 2013.
Man.
Storm 3 was what started it all for me. And Dragon Ball Z, that was just the thing growing up. Kids, everybody, Kamehameha and this and that and whatever, that was childhood. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's still going. Dragon Ball came out in the 90s.
Well, Dragon Ball was 89, I believe.
Or 89,
And then
89
Dragon
or
Ball Z
so.
might have been 92 or 93 or 94. Like again, I wasn't even born at that time, so I don't even know it off the top of my head. Plus, like, I'm sure, like, at the time when these shows came out, we weren't watching them with such scrutiny like we do now and picking them apart. So, like,
Nah, heck no. I was
it's
a
like
kid coming home from
yeah,
school.
as a kid, that's all we cared about. That's all what was important. You know, we didn't care about no fourth grade Ninja War. We just cared about showing up and doing something that we enjoyed. So, like, here we are now, picking it apart
Yeah,
because
I,
we're operators.
I think that the Namek saga gets so much hate. I think that the Namek saga gets so much hate, and the Frieza saga gets so much hate because as a kid who used to watch that, I think they used to put them on like daily. But as a kid, coming home, I think it was like 6 o'clock. They put Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, and it comes on, and they spend like the whole 22 minutes just talking. Where you
And
want
then
to
they'll
see
be
Goku and
like,
Frieza
find
go
out
at it.
next time.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, man, I've been waiting for this all day. I was thinking about this in school all
But when it
day.
happened, when it
I
finally
did my
happened,
homework. I came and sat down, and man, they just spent the whole episode talking about what happened in the last episode.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, man, you got to do that all. You got to wait for that all day. But I think that's why that one got so much disdain because it was, after I watched it, when I watched it back, before I'm doing a rewatch now, but before I did this one, as I was watching it back, I was like, yeah, they did do a lot of like time wasting back in the day. And even if you look at like I watched the Sasuke and Itachi fight like 1,000 times. I watched the Pain and Jiraiya fight 1,000 times, and it's like, when you watch it like episode to episode, like I didn't watch it live. I didn't watch it when it was happening. Did you watch it as it was happening?
no, I didn't get into
Okay.
Shippuden until I played Storm 2 and finished it.
So, so shout out to the people who watched that when it was happening, man. Because I know
Yeah,
that like y'all was going through y'all was
yeah,
going through it back then.
yeah. On them go anime, kiss anime servers. Yeah, man. Yeah, good luck to you guys.
Yeah, y'all was going through it. So shout out to y'all. But like I understand it back then. But yeah, man, it has come a long way, anime in
Yeah,
general. And
yeah,
shout out to all you young cats doing watching the new anime, and even if the old cats are watching it, enjoying it. It's cool that everybody just gets to enjoy, something
yeah. I see y'all
animated
throwing up
animation.
domain expansion hand signs now. Like that seems to be the thing now. I've noticed.
It's crazy out here, but if you're enjoying it, that's what's up. So I guess before we wrap,
At
unless you
2
go
hours and
early,
41 minutes.
nah, I know it ain't been that long.
Well, it's been 2 hours,
Um,
but
Marcell on Tuesday, straighten this guy out.
guys, think about me,
Um,
please.
um,
Easy topics, all
so
right? Easy topics.
yeah, it was easy going, but before we jet, let's let's have you tell the people why, because I mean, we was talking about Naruto a lot today, and you said why Boruto is legit.
Yep,
Well, actually, I got two things. I'm sorry.
yep.
Um, First of all, so why don't you tell us why you think Sakura is legit? Because Sakura gets a lot of hate.
Sakura is
She
legit
gets a lot of hate.
because a lot of people misremember what she did, and her biggest character moments are then truncated by like Naruto and Sasuke getting a big air quote power boost. In the world of Naruto, Kunichis are considered, let's say, fodder. Okay, it wasn't until Tsunade that she started putting her brains to the battlefield and was like, "Hey, instead of having a team of like 3 DPSs, why don't we have one DPS, one tank, and one support? Big emphasis on the support." And they were like, "Yeah, let's do that." This will increase the productivity of ninja missions and the success rate overall, because we can't have ninjas dying, because then we gotta wait till they're all primed and ready to go from the academy. Okay, Sakura is what Tsunade basically was, but just like at the body of 12, and she was like a valley girl and was like, I value beauty over like fighting. And at some point she was like, you know what, I gotta grow up. And I think she did that really well. Again, wasn't the best written character, but from what she was when she was talking out of her mouth saying like, oh, Naruto's an orphan, he doesn't get it, to where she is now, where she's like, hey, this is my commander in chief and I gotta respect him, but I can still banter with him. I think that's pretty cool. That's an 18+ year investment. Sakura legit. And to everyone who keeps thinking that like Chio carried that fight with her grandson, no, it's a teamwork, collaborative effort. She put strings on her to pull her out of the way in case there was a blind spot of an attack that Sakura could not see. But when it came to actually physically putting hands on Sasori and making that damage count, Sakura can literally punch mountains in half. Okay? Just want you to know, Chio cannot do that. She can do that with her puppets, but if you take that away from her, Chio is just another old woman that just happens to be very educated in the field of medicine and puppetry. But if she doesn't have any tools to apply that, she's basically a civilian, okay? Sakura is legit. Now, her parents, on the other hand, are trash. Her parents are boring. Her parents can't do anything. But because of how Sakura applied herself, look how she turned out. You see what I'm saying?
So that's a good point right there. Let me piggyback off that. Pause. But
We
let
about
me
to get
piggyback
2
off
hours
that.
and 40 minutes. I ain't crazy. I can see the future. I am the incarnate of time.
But just piggybacking off of that. And also going into the other what I was just talking about is like, yeah, she came from nothing. You know what I mean? Like, and she's put on a team with these two, you know, soon to be
Jobbers.
legends in the future, and it's like she hung with them. She hung with them. So it's like absolutely, you know, I always thought that people was bugging off of soccer. I mean, first of all, you know, no disrespect, but even Kishimoto said like he wasn't even the best at writing women. So that certainly didn't help her in the first degree. And then in the second degree, I think that a lot of people like it's wild out here. I know you got like the shipping wars and whatever, but it's wild the way that some people are just like they do not want to forgive Sakura because she was an ignorant child. Like she can't come back from that.
Yeah, like we all weren't
And
ignorant children growing up.
like absolutely. And it's like she says it. She probably had one of the biggest turnarounds from people who used to chastise, and it kept her in personality. Like this is somebody who went after Sasuke, who wasn't even thinking about Sasuke, but went after Sasuke because all the other girls was going after Sasuke. You feel me?
Yep.
Like she wasn't in love with homeboy from the beginning, but you know, because she wanted to fit in because she was insecure about the size of her forehead. She wanted to fit in with the other girls. She started copying them, and that's when she wanted to go after Sasuke.
This girl was literally going to forsake her village to go with Sasuke. Didn't know what he was doing, what he was talking about, how he was going to do it. She was like, I'm going to put it on the line for this eggplant. Like, it's silly in hindsight when you look at it like that, but like, the Elite Village would have had 2 people gone rogue, and that would have been a very terrible look. Not to mention, it's a new Uchiha, who we already have historical issues with. Now we lost another one of our own. Like, come on, like Sakura was doing things where it was like, all right, you're way in over your head, but like you're motivated, you're being a character right now. Let's see where this goes. Like, she's not a terrible character. She's legit.
No, she's not. She probably has, you know, she's up there when it comes to like the strongest development. So it's like, you know, and then to add to your point with the fight with Chio helped her. Yeah, Chio can't beat Sasori without Sakura. Like she needed to use Sakura. She wasn't even gonna. She wasn't even going for that. Until they convinced her and stuff like that. But yeah, they. It was a team. Exactly. It was teamwork. Um, they worked with each other, and it wasn't Chio that carried that fight. I
Yeah, no.
think that. I think that they kind of like showed it to the point where like I think Sasori let himself take that final blow because he just he's seeing his parents and his, the emotion of it all, which I think goes into like the writing of the story.
Yeah.
It's like it's not about power at the end of the day. These things like emotions and mental and stuff like that goes into the results of these battles.
Yeah, because
But
even though they're ninjas, they're still humans at the end of the day. And that's why it harkens back to
yeah,
like Zabuza's first story where it was like, even though you talk about Haku like a tool, you do care about him on a humane level. Now apply that to all the ninja moving forward. Like for every battle, that level of humanity was there in all of them. And I think that's what
yeah,
made it
like
cool.
everybody feels something. Nobody is really like, well, yeah, no, I guess nobody's like evil to the degree where they just gonna turn, or you can't pull on their heartstrings or anything like that. But I think that Chio and Sasori fight Sakura was really done well. It showed Sakura's development to like how she grew as a fighter, because I mean, we don't really see her as a fighter. She has a lot of character moments in part one. Like you said, she was getting ready to leave the village. Her part in the Chunin exams, when she refused to give up, and how she was looking after both of her teammates. And I don't even think she was really down with Naruto at that point, but still there was a team, so they had to, look after each other. And she just continued growing from there. Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who you had heard it from, and we don't really need to name it. I know that there's idiots on the internet and whatever that will be like, yeah, Sakura is not a legitimate character, but Sakura is
No, I just
definitely,
I just heard it like in passing growing up where it's just like back then I didn't pay any mind to it just because I'm just watching it as like a show, you know? And obviously back then before like the internet really, really, really popped off, you talked about these things in school. And I just like the sentiment just seemed to be like, oh, Sakura did something silly. She's so silly. Like she's so dumb. Why would she
yeah,
do that? Like,
or
she
she,
punched Naruto.
or
Haha.
yeah,
You know, but like as I got older and then like, college years and seeing like what the online sentiment is for this show that's come out from 2002, I'm like, man, people really don't like Sakura. I'm just glad
no,
I
they
never
don't.
subscribed to that thought or played into it because like if someone doesn't like her, cool, they don't like her. But like it's very evident when people are just like being rabid towards like what the internet says, and in that level of thinking, there's some safety in being just lost in the mob of just mindless people saying the same thing. So like I've always thought Sakura was a legit character, and the ups and downs that she went through to like be where she is, like she's just matured. I knew that she matured when they stopped doing that little Shanaro thing in the back of her head when it's like black and white and she's got like her inner voice
Yeah,
talking. Once she
yeah.
stopped doing
Hmm.
that, I was like, yeah, they're gonna try to do more with her. Like it, I like where she ended up, and now she's with Naruto, who benefits from a system that oppressed him.
Yeah, that's why she does. She definitely was legit to me.
She
And
played
in
her
the
cards right.
beginning, I know a lot of people be like, oh, she's useless and she's this and all that. Like, I don't think they really understand, how much wreck Sakura can do if she really wanted to. Like you said, they called her in one of them Boruto fights, and she ended the whole thing by herself. And this is housewife Sakura. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
like this
saying?
is
Like this,
Sakura
this ain't
Uchiha.
even. Yeah, this is not even in constant training Sakura. This is Sakura who's, yeah, I'm just a mother now. I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
That's her. She still came back and did her thing right there real fast. Like, yeah, surpassed Tsunade. Yeah, nah, if you think Sakura is useless and you listen to this right now, just know that we both think you're tripping. And you need to
Yeah,
you,
and
you
it's
need to
okay.
chill
We'll
out.
help you. We'll pick you up when you trip. And if you're into the shippings, then like, listen, I got an application for you at Amazon. They doing like 17-15 an hour. Okay, so ship away. All right. With that
Yeah,
being said,
yeah, y'all need to stop being tripping. But hold on one second. I
oh,
wanted I wanted you to touch on this too, because I don't know if we'll ever get back to it,
we're on
but
2 hours and
it'll
40
be
minutes. Here
cool
I
too.
come. Okay, go ahead.
Um, when you watch Edge Runners and you was talking about Max Tack, Max
Yeah.
Tack, which is like the SWAT
Oh,
team
yeah.
in that world, in that dystopian future, for y'all that don't know, they're
Hmm.
like the SWAT team. And you said that you wish that Anbu Black Ops and Naruto was represented like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so what? So how do you feel like they're represented now? And like, what would you like for them to change if they asked you
So
for representation?
Ambu now in Boruto is kind of like a blink and you'll miss it moment. Like obviously Donzo's dead and Sai is more or less the head of the Federation, but it's like Sai, for better and for worse, was I guess you could say like groomed by Donzo's way of thinking to run things the way he does. Like obviously he's not like a bad guy, but like again, Sai is just like this emotional canvas where it's like you really don't know what's going on in his head because he is supposed to be a spy. He is supposed to be Ambu. He is supposed to be for like the highest level of tactical espionage. So you don't want to get a read on him. I remember I was watching this one episode in Boruto where Sai was teaching his son about his mom's ability, and then his mom joined in and was just trying to teach him about it, but she did it in kind of like all the wrong ways and was putting too much pressure on him. So Sai was just kind of like, okay, instead of dealing with my own son, I'm gonna go to this other kid on like literally called like Team 25. Like I'm talking a bunch of nobodies. He taught this one kid who wanted to be a Kakashi fanboy. That's how we all saw him in the community. He was a Kakashi fanboy. Kept one patch over his eye, literally depriving it of like Sunny D and all that jazz. And he taught him internal mental manipulations. So if anyone tried to probe his mind, the person probing their mind would be caught in a genjutsu. Kind of like a Tsukiyomi, kind of like a mind transfer jutsu, but combined. And I'm like, wow, like that's Sai at the end of the day. Like at the end of the day, Sai's gonna make sure that the village's security is not messed over. And he used his son in that fight to explain that point. And I was like, blink and you'll miss it. Whoa, in Boruto, where like everything's supposed to be happy-go-lucky because we're in a time of peace? No, there's still some people in the old guard that are like, yeah, war could happen at any moment, and you better believe we're gonna be ready. So I like little elements like that. Now, Anbu on its own, they really haven't showed that much of them in Boruto just because, again, time of peace. Basically, the Konoha 11 can take care of anything that comes onto their doorstep. What I would have liked from Anbu growing up, from how they were touted as, like, you know, really elite ninja, like, they were, like, the highest end of a Jonin, right? Like, 13 Kakashis, essentially. Like, I would have loved to see them treated like that. And if an enemy was going to make a move on the Leaf Village, they'd have to factor in the Anbu. And it would be like, okay, we need to finish this or plan for this because we're gonna lose some people before this fight begins and the day is over. It's like two things. One, there was this One Punch Man game that came out, terrible game, trash, kind of. But like the whole gimmick was like once the timer ran out and Saitama showed up, you lost. Like you couldn't beat him because he would just beat you in one punch. Like that was a fun, interesting gimmick of like playing like the setup of his joke and then putting it into like an actual battle mechanic. So like if Orochimaru was gonna like invade the village, it would have been cool if he accounted for with actual severity, hey, the Anbu might show up and our success rate is gonna take a huge hit from this. But Naruto got to that point in the show, part one, mind you, where like the Anbu just became like a non-factor. I remember to this day when they were doing so many episodes of like the third versus the first, the second Orochimaru, and them dudes are just sitting there on the four corners of the wall narrating the whole thing like we're in Battle City. And I'm like, can they really just stand here and look at this four prison wall? They can't figure out like how to unearth the tiles and get underneath it and, you know, go through the building and go underneath it. Like they didn't show you showing them thinking it through. They just stayed there narrating it the whole time. So when I'm watching Edge Runners and Max Tack shows up, it's all business. And I'm like, man, that would have been cool if the Anbu showed up, because if the Anbu showed up, situation's handled, you know? And then they go back into the shadows. Like, and that's why I like Sasuke's role so much, just because he's just shadowing like the entire world. And if anything happens, the Leaf Village gets dibs because they're first subscribed to him, you know? But Max Tack, if they're like the Anbu, they were depicted and presented much better in their world than what the Anbu was in their own respective world. They had their moments where they come together and, you know, do something cool and flashy, but because it has to be at the cost of showing the antagonist being just that, they make the antagonist do something flashy or not care to what just came upon them. Like when Pain showed up, even though Pain was like a legitimate threat, it would have been cool if he had like at least gave the Anbu some type of like, you know, I tip my hat to you. You guys are pretty good. Now get out of my way. But when Max Tack showed up, yo, even I was worried. Because
So it's
our
kind
heroes
of
are
like,
strong, but like Max Tack is just stronger. Max Tack is
yeah,
like the
Max Tack
end of the
341.
road. Like that's
Yeah.
6 stars and international recording on you when it gets to that level. Like good luck getting out. Yeah. Yeah. I like
So
that depiction.
they kind of use Ambu as like fodder for the antagonists, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, pretty much. They just end up becoming fodder just to show us where their power level was at or what their move set was like, and then they'll work off of that. They'll work off of that. Which again, it's fine if that's what you want to do it with, but like we all got the impression that the Ombu was supposed to be like a pretty hard wall to beat over. Um
Yeah.
and I again guess they just changed gears and that wasn't the case. Silly on us, right? But
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree because it's like, if like going back to the Orochimaru situation, like if you wanted to put like some regular Jonin in there or something like that and have them be stuck, yeah, you have them instead of like Anbu because you can't have your special forces looking like dummies out here. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
yeah.
yeah, because nobody really respects Anbu unless it's like a small scale thing or unless they have like a named character with them. You know what I mean? Like if
Right.
Kakashi's with Anbu, it's serious. If you're showing Itachi with Anbu, it's serious. If you're showing Yamato or something like that, yeah, it's serious. But other than that, yeah, Anbu's just showing up, getting their
And it's
behinds
weird because
kicked
like
in.
that's like the only 3 members of Ambu that are um like valedictorians essentially. Like I mean there
Well,
was that one girl
they
with
got
the
that,
that girl with
yeah,
the
that girl
purple
with the
hair, but
purple
like
hair.
again they do
Yep.
absolutely nothing with her, you know? She's supposed to be like uh related or like in oh, I'm sorry, she's supposed to have relations with one of the Jonin. I can't remember if he has the scar on his face, Genma, or
No,
the
it's the
dude with the
sick.
toothpick.
It's the one that was sick.
Oh yeah,
Remember the
him.
guy who gave the exams? He
Yeah,
gave
it's like
the
they
second
don't
exam.
they don't do anything with that, you know? And maybe that was the point, but it's like if you're gonna show us like the humanity of the Ombu, then like you gotta make us care. But from what they showed us at start, where it was
Right.
like, hey, they're basically these group of faceless ninja that are really elite, some of the best. Okay, show us. The minute the 4 summoning wall prison thing, whatever that Orochimaru did, the first Anbu member jumped at the wall and then caught himself on fire, fell off the building, and he was never heard from again. Like, that's Anbu.
Yeah. The anime, Kishimoto and them had on boy here looking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. As you put that into perspective, it's like, yeah, they should have had them be the ones to show up. Cause I mean, like I said, when they're doing it, when they're showing Itachi getting in there and Kakashi's with them, and they show up and they're like, yeah, we can't leave any witnesses alive, cause nobody can know. Or I think it was Guy that said Kakashi's name, and Kakashi got real pissed. Like, you can't say my name on here, when we're out here doing this thing,
Yeah.
and leave no traces of the hidden leaf. Like, that's when you see Anbu at like what they're supposed to
Which
be.
is also
But
crazy
like,
because, like, this is supposed to be the village that we're supposed to side with. Like,
well, I mean, they're
yo,
black ops. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, we
Like,
don't you like. I think that people don't really like. So people listening to this, like, I don't think that you want to know what the Black Ops Forces of America is getting up to.
to
You know
make
what I
sure that
mean? And
our
I mean,
peace is
like,
sustained. Yeah.
yeah, like you don't really want to know what they're doing. And they're not gonna let you. Like, if you know anything, if anything leaks out about their thing, first of all, they're gonna deny it. And second of all, they failed. You know what I mean? Like, there's harsh consequences for stuff that they're doing getting out there.
Yeah.
So it's not ever supposed to be known. They are, and that's why I think that Donzo gets kind of a rough rap because he's kind of like, I don't think he's this great. Like, he goes about things the wrong way, but his intention is to be the shadow that does the things that those who walk in the light can't do. Now,
Right.
does he force it a bit too much? Yeah, but he's not like his intent is not nefarious as everybody wants to try to make it seem.
Yeah. He probably
But
would have gotten to that at some point if, like, again, left unchecked. Because he is a subset of, like, the village's security. He overstepped Tsunade whenever he could. Um, at the end of the day, he's supposed to answer to her. But obviously, he found his ways to get stuff done without her signing off on it. So, like, again, it's that level of world building that's really interesting because even though he's on the good guy's side, he's not necessarily a good guy. And maybe that's why people also like Wolverine too, just because like even though Wolverine's a good guy, he's willing to like, tear you up to make sure that peace is sustained.
Yeah.
And then you have Cyclops, who is just like the best of Magneto and Charles at odds with each other. But like Wolverine is like one of those guys who's like, yeah, I don't have a problem getting my hands dirty if it means we all get to live one more day. You know, I think that's cool. I think that's cool that they were able to do that in Naruto. But Edward Snowden, if you're out there still in Russia, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your opinion of this.
Yeah, I was telling somebody about that movie, and that's crazy. Like I didn't even know because I think I told her the story. I was like, I had an ex who used to cover the webcam with the laptop
Hmm.
with duct tape, saying like, oh yeah, they could just pop in there and look at you and whatever. And I was like, I wasn't believing it. Like I was like, nah, I don't think they're gonna do all of that. And then I watched that movie, and it was like, yeah, it's just as simple as turning on your phone camera, or turning on their camera, or turning on this or turning on that, and we could do this whenever, and ain't nobody caring because we just whatever. Who's gonna say anything? I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I was like that is insane, and the fact that they put more and more voice recording material and video recording material on everything, and these people are like, yeah, let me just automate my whole home. Like y'all are wild, man. Like,
That's a lot of eggs in one basket.
y'all are wild, but yeah, nah. I agree, and I wanted you to think because I know you was talking about that. I thought that was a good point about if they made Ambu a bit more serious, that would have been I think that would have been a benefit to the show and the story.
Yeah,
But you
it
know,
would have just been another layer of like, oh, these stakes are heavy. Like I would have enjoyed that, but it's okay. What we got was a pretty cool product at the end of the day.
yeah, we are where we are, and they're still going, so they must have did something right.
Yeah.
All right, take us home.
You sure we can wait 20 more minutes to get to 2 hours and 40 minutes? Okay. How is each episode getting longer than the one previously? I oh my gosh, I can't. Okay.
This was supposed. This was gonna be short too, but yeah, no.
Well, any last things that you want to say?
Uh, Nah, not really. Other than I was noticing some on the internet
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing a bit of debating and stuff as I was looking up things to like talk about and stuff like that. None of which was really brought up here, but I was doing my talking and trolling whatever, and I was just thinking about this. Only thing I really want to say is to the people out there, who want to see, change in particular things or whatever the case may be. Be the change that you want to be. Be the change that you want to see. You know, you got to
Okay,
do it yourself.
Gandhi, talk to him.
Cause, cause, I was out there, talking and whatever, and certain people, I said something, and then certain people would be like, nah, you're wrong, or I would say something like a provoking nature, and I'd be wrong, and then they would come back at me with the same energy. And a lot of internet fights start like that. A lot of debates and arguments start like that, where it's just like you don't want to admit you're wrong. And if you're wrong, just say you're wrong. I'd be a lot of times I'd be like, you know what, you're right, you got that, bro. I was tripping.
Yeah.
I was wrong on that. And then every time I did that, they was like, no, I kind of came at you sideways, da da da. Because a lot of times, you say something like that, and I'd be like, yeah, you dummy, da 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 da.
Oh,
It was just like, nah,
friendships.
yeah, I was like, no, you got that. And then it was like, yeah, it's like this, da 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 da. So I mean, instead of putting all that negative energy out in the world, if you want to see positive change, be the positive change that you want to see. If you want to, see more representation or something like that, get into them fields that you want to see more representation. It's like my mother said when I used to read stories, and I'm like, man, how come they don't write this story? She'd be like, why don't you write it? If you want to see it, if you want to see it and ain't nobody doing it, sometimes you got to be the one to do it. So be the change that you want to see is what I wanted to say this week.
Well said. Well said. Hot dog. Honestly, I echo those sentiments. If I had to add anything, I would just say, be the change that you want to see. Don't go backwards, because if you do, you're gonna end up like the Joker. Okay, we're all one bad day away from just going crazy, right, Money? Money, you there? Yeah, Money. Hello, Money. You there? Yeah.
Like Money Green has disconnected.
Well, he went backwards. What can I say? Is that a B-52 stealth bomber? Dead. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, Joker's legit. Okay, you and I need to watch that movie.
Man, you must be trying to get us to stay on for 3 hours. I mean, I could do 3
No, I'm
hours if
just
you want.
saying, like, I can't believe, like, out of all the things in media, like, this one, you're just like, no. I'm the max tackle on booze. I am not budging on this. And it's like, please.
I'm not budging on it. Like I said, man, if we're looking at it as a psychology movie, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're not gonna watch the Broadway one with me when it comes out?
If we're absolutely not.
Why
you
not?
Think first of all, I don't like the first one. You want to make me watch the sequel, which they said they wasn't gonna make, and it's a musical.
So you'd rather watch Barbie and not this?
I'd rather watch Barbie 3 times and not this.
Be the change you want to see in the world, huh?
You got me, because I said I wasn't even going to get into this. And here we are.
And if you didn't have the support system in your current life now, you'd end up differently. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible said it was late in the evening.
Yeah, before this project is over, I'm triggering you like you triggered me. I'm putting it on the record right now. You ain't even gonna know what's coming. You ain't even gonna know what's coming, but you ain't gonna know what's coming. But we figure it out.
That's great. Well, guys, that's gonna be it. All right, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you didn't, share it with your friends. Real quick, also, Fourth Sage, JQ probably now going as MELB. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for engaging with us and having fun in the live chats. Those are always fun, and getting to chat with you guys also in real time. We're also totally not ranting with each other in person when we're watching the premiere ourselves. Right, Money?
Yeah, nah, them be chill, because we just be kicking it. But no, on a serious thing, shout out to y'all, man, if you make it this far. Shout out to you if you've been rocking with us since the first episode. It means a lot. The support is crazy. We appreciate it. Yeah, if you enjoy it, man, drop a like, drop a comment, spread the word to a friend if you feel like that, any of these topics, that interest them. I want to hear 2 dudes ran away. But we appreciate everybody. Shout out to y'all, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you guys.
All right, and on that, guys, take a deep breath. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes. I was close. Say it with me. Stay happy, stay healthy. Please, don't do anything we wouldn't do except watch magical anime girls, okay? Because that's what the real anime is all about, okay? If you don't know, now you do. Go watch Golden Time. It's really good. I have been Marcell.
And this is Money Green.
And you, the wonderful viewer, are a blessing. Unless you like Genshin Impact and get the heck out of here. Take care. Good evening. And God bless. Bye.
Be the change that you want to see.